CH1 Responsibilities. Today was October 11th, the day after the QB no Kitsune attacked Kanahagakure, and things weren't going well for those inside the village. Especially for the formerly retired, newly reappointed village leader, Hiruzen Surtobi, who was sequestered in his regained office with an upset blonde infant boy resting in a basket with a blanket. I can't believe it. Do they really have that little faith in Minato's skill or humanity? Is something wrong, Sensei? An almost eerie but not unconcerned voice asked from behind him. Orochimaru, it's good you came by. The elder Hokage said as he opened the window and let his pale student inside, who was dressed as a normal jounin. And yes, something is indeed wrong. But first, do you think you can reach Jiraiya or Tsunade really soon? Orochimaru shook his head. You know Jiraiya is too wrapped up in his spy network to just come here all of a sudden. And need I say anything about Tsunade? At least try. Tell them they've got a new responsibility that requires they return here ASAP. The Snake Sannin sighed. I can try, but forgive me if I don't have the best confidence in what my teammates will do about it. But before I even try to, tell me what the new responsibility is first. Sarutobi nodded, knowing it would be pointless for Orochimaru to explain something to the others he himself didn't know anything about. All right, you see that young boy. He pointed to the sleeping infant. Orochimaru nodded. That's Minato's son, Naruto. Naruto Namikaze. I'm assuming it means maelstrom, not fish paste cake, right? Correct, but he won't be called Namikaze. He'll have his mother's maiden name, Uzumaki, instead. Orochimaru blinked. What for? Well, in the last war, Minato killed off a large number of IWA ninja as if it was nothing, and they're very angry at the humiliation they've received for it. If IWA knew Minato had a living relative, they may seek out his blood and go to extreme measures for it. We can't afford to risk such an attack now or in the foreseeable future, so if his name is different, neither him or the village will be in trouble for it. Sounds good on the surface, but are you going to keep this a secret from everyone in Konoha too? Sarutobi nodded. Yes, people can't reveal a secret they don't know. So until he's the proper age, he and everyone else must remain ignorant of his heritage. Him too? Why? Orochimaru asked, not seeing the logic. Kids tend to brag about themselves or their families to sound important amongst other kids. If he's ignorant too, then he can't draw too much attention to himself. Sarutobi explained. So Minato's son will have to live like a normal person? Who's going to raise him? Minato and Kushina listed Jiraiya and Tsunade as the child's godparents. Orochimaru looked surprised. Really? Why? Because they both knew and trusted your teammates, Orochimaru. It wasn't personal. Oh, I know that. And I already have a godchild. Remember Daisuke Mitarashi? Orochimaru asked. Sarutobi nodded, having seen the Pale Sannin being friends with the name Jounin and his family. Sadly, he and his wife died yesterday, but they entrusted me with caring for their daughter in such an event. That's good, and Minato thought Jiraiya and Tsunade would be good for Naruto. If he can ask them to come here, that would be best. Orochimaru sighed. I can try, Sensei, but remember, I don't have confidence they'll cooperate. I'll be as quick as I can, but while I'm gone, can you watch over Anko-chan for me, please? Sarutobi nodded, not seeing a problem with supervising a 6-year-old for a bit. He could make some ninjas watch over her as a D-rank mission if he needed to focus elsewhere. Orochimaru then left the building and then the village to find his teammates. They were good at hiding from those looking for them, but since he was their teammate, he would have an easier time than others. But that didn't guarantee anything. 3 days later, Orochimaru returned to the Hokage Tower, empty-handed and alone. The first thing he saw when he answered were a bunch of irritated civilians and even a few ninjas too. One of them, a ninja wearing his hitate over his left eye, approached him. One of the Sannin is here. Perhaps you could make Hokage-sama sensible again. Sensible? Orochimaru asked, beyond confused. If there was one thing the so-called professor wasn't, it was insensible. Yeah, he's been hiding up in his office for over a day and being foolish by preventing us from doing our duty. Orochimaru didn't like any of this, and even less when murmurs from the gathered people said things like kill and demon. As far as he knew, the QB had already been taken care of. So what was all the commotion about? He didn't say anything, just walked past them. The group let him pass with pleasure, figuring he was going to take care of the problem himself. Orochimaru stopped in front of the door, well aware there had to be a seal to prevent entry. So he summoned a snake and had it slip into the vents that led into the room. Come Orochimaru. I'm glad you're back, Sarutobi called out after 3 minutes, knowing only one person would gain his attention with a snake that knew not to attack. The seal briefly gave out and Orochimaru entered, closing the door quickly so the seal could reactivate before anyone took the opportunity to barge in. As soon as he entered, a young girl with long, loose purple hair barreled into him. Orochi-san, thank Kami you're back. She was clearly crying. What's wrong, Anko-chan? He asked the sobbing child. He noticed the crib next to the desk, and the infant inside was asleep, but didn't look comfortable. And now he could see whisker marks on the boy's face. So many bad people were here, trying to hurt the baby. They said so many bad things about him. They tried to hurt me too. Orochimaru's eyes widened, and he gave his old teacher a look that said, please tell me this is not true. Sarutobi sighed, and closing his eyes, did nothing to comfort his student. I'm afraid it's true. Once the council learned what had transpired with Naruto, they ordered his immediate execution. The civilians took the bait almost completely, and even some of the shinobi have too. Why the fuck would they order that? Orochimaru all but shouted, momentarily forgetting he had a child beside him. Well, Minato got rid of the Kyuubi by sealing it away inside Naruto at the cost of his life. I told them this so that they'd know not to be afraid of a repeat attack by the beast, and that the child should be considered a hero for bearing such a burden. But right away, they craved his blood. Apparently, they either believe the infant is simply the fox turned into a helpless child, or Minato did this specifically so the child could be killed, thus killing the fox with it. Orochimaru wanted to throw up. Once in a while, he had curious thoughts that others could consider vile, but this was barbaric. So the council that has always worked with Minato actually believes that he would wish a newborn to die just to solve a problem? And if not that he was powerful enough to change the great fox demon into a human, but not strong enough to actually kill it? With all due respect, Sensei, my snakes have eaten things smarter than that. I've tried telling them the same, but they just can't see any other possibility. A few ninja have already tried to kill him at their beckoning, one being Minato's own student, claiming that's what Minato would have done if the demon hadn't killed him. If this keeps up, my hair's gonna go gray faster. I've kept him here since then, and Anko-chan's been adamant about protecting him too since she's been here. For the first time, Sarutobi smiled. You should be proud of her. She took a kunai to the shoulder to protect him. Orochimaru looked down at his godchild again and saw her tenderly touch her right shoulder. With the shirt in the way, he couldn't see the bandage around it, but didn't need to. He bent down and hugged his friend's daughter. Good girl, Anko-chan. And at least you didn't get hurt worse. Orochimaru, any news regarding Jiraiya and Tsunade? Sarutobi asked. The snake Sannin tore himself away for the little girl. Sadly no, sensei. I couldn't locate either. I checked all the nearest hot spring resorts, casinos, and bars, but got nothing. I might have searched more, but my gut told me to get back here. And I'm glad I did. Sarutobi took a puff from his pipe. This is bad. If we can't get at least one of those two back here soon, Naruto might not last much longer. Then I'll take him in for now. Sarutobi blinked, but didn't look surprised or objected. But don't you already have Anko-chan to watch over? And you were never officially declared a possible guardian for Naruto. If two Sannins aren't available, then who better than the one that is? Good point. The Sandaime agreed. But still, won't having two children interfere with your work? Orochimaru tended to work with a ninja R&D division like the Naras and Akimikis when he wasn't on missions, hoping to find ways to give their shinobi advantages over others. By now, some rather unscrupulous ideas and theories had come to mind for him, and he was half willing to try them out to see if they could work. No more than one would. Besides, it won't be permanent. Tsunade may decide she's gone off on her own long enough soon and decide to settle down back here. And sooner or later, Jiraiya has to come back to tell you the results of his snooping. I can watch him in the meantime. After all, I don't see anyone else volunteering that you know won't try to kill him. Sarutobi couldn't argue that point. Very well, Orochimaru. I'll allow you to be Naruto's guardian and caretaker until such time that his designated godparents can do the job instead. Also, I'm creating a few laws for Naruto's protection. No one will be allowed to talk about sealing away the Kyuubi or Naruto's connection to it. So none of the younger generation will be taught anything except that the Kyuubi was beaten by the Yondaime, with the exception of Anko-chan here, for obvious reasons. This way, maybe he can live a normal life among his peers. That requires a lot of faith in the people of this village, sensei. And if what I saw outside is any sign, this boy's still going to have a hard time fitting in, especially if the parents tell their children to stay away from him. Orochimaru commented, "We'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it, and hope he can gain some friends that'll see him for him," Sarutobi said, not sounding as confident as he wanted to, which Orochimaru easily noticed. With nothing else to say, Orochimaru thanked his teacher, grabbed Naruto and Anko, and left the building through the window. No way he was going to walk through that crowd again, holding the whiskered infant. He took the two to his small, modest home and set up a futon and crib in his guest room. "Sorry, but you two will have to share a room for a little bit." Anko nodded. "That's okay, Orochiji-san. I've been sleeping in the office with him and the old man since you left. You aren't going away again so soon, are you?" Orochimaru shook his head. "No, not until things here get settled for you two. I need to see just how many are going to try to hurt him, and you just because you know him. Again, protecting him was a very good thing to do." Anko smiled. "He's cute, especially with those whiskers." "I guess he is. I hope that's not the only reason you helped him." Anko shook her head. "Nope. I thought he might be able to be that little brother I always wanted. And if he's staying here with me, he really is." Orochimaru smiled. "I guess you're right. And as the big sister, you need to be there to keep him safe if someone tries that again. Try not to get yourself killed, though, and get me if things get ugly." "'Kay. I sure hope this works out until those two get here." Orochimaru thought, "Ch. Two problems. 2 years have passed since Naruto was born, and they hadn't been pleasant years for him. Even though he was too young to ever remember all of this time, his foster family would never forget it. Everything that happened or almost happened to Naruto, they either softened or took in his place, and while it hurt, in a way it brought them all closer. Tsunade still had not come back to the village or been confirmed seen in that time. Jiraiya had come back a few times to make his reports, but never stayed long enough to actually do anything about his responsibility to Naruto, even see him. At times, Orochimaru seriously wondered if the peeping Tom was even aware of it or Naruto. Sarutobi told him otherwise, though, a few months ago. I managed to inform him about Minato's son being alive and reminded him of his duty. The Sandaime had explained to his one remaining student. He says he can't simply stop what he's doing since it would take too long to get restarted once he had free time again, and he's onto something potentially vital to Konoha's safety. He doesn't like this, but feels it's best to just let things stay as they are for now. It wasn't that Orochimaru really minded having to care for Naruto, although the frequent feedings and diaper changes in the beginning had been a hassle. Outside that, he liked the boy. The sheer playful innocence of the child was a welcome change to having to deal with shinobi matters all day long, with people that long ago forgot what innocence was. And the youthful curiosity reminded him why he got into R&D in the first place, to help young ninja improve their chances of returning home alive. Over time, the concept of lengthening a ninja's lifespan sounded more tempting, and if he ever figured out a promising way, he might try it out. But now it wouldn't be just for his own benefit. Naruto and Anko both helped the Pale Sannin a lot in his personal life. Because of his snake-like appearance and albino-ish complexion, Orochimaru never really had much of a social or romantic life. All of his friends were business friends he occasionally hung out with when off duty, like his teammates or Anko's parents. So he had basically given up on love or having a family of his own long ago. Having Anko and Naruto around filled the void he figured he'd just tolerate for the rest of his life. And in a way, he considered them the children he never had. Anko still called him Jizan, though, and Naruto would too when he saw him. One time as a 1-year-old, he hissed instead, making both Orochimaru and Anko laugh a lot. Anko missed her parents, but liked her foster uncle and brother. She was aware of being with them wasn't intended to be permanent, but decided Naruto was going to be her brother no matter what. She proved it by taking several fists and cuts for defending him or just by being associated with him. The first few were adults which were arrested for child endangerment, but after the rest learned they encouraged their children. Many were reluctant, especially those that knew Anko before, but not all so. She became victimized all over again. Her only response, better me than Otudo. Orochimaru was livid about all this. Even more so when one of the babysitters early on tried to kill them both. Anko had to use a kitchen knife to cut the sitter's Achilles tendon before they could do worse than put a few bruises on them both. The sitter tried to press charges, but since Sarutobi handled the case, the sitter had a restraining order against the residents and occupants since then and community service. After that, he never left them with anyone without a shadow clone or a snake summon nearby. He simply couldn't trust anyone to be near them without him. At the moment, Anko, who was 8 years old now, was practicing out in her house's backyard, while Naruto took a nap inside their room. The two still shared a room, which made it easier for her to defend him if anything should happen. Anko was throwing some kunais at human-shaped boards to improve her aim for certain spots, a point Orochimaru told her was vital to perfect for her. After she threw them, her personal summons Kogayaku, which Orochimaru had arranged to be permanently summoned to defend the girl until she was older, would retrieve them for her. Naruto had one too, a snake called Sango that was watching him like a guard dog at the moment. Both snakes were venomous and could become as large as boas if they had to. The only way to tell them apart was Kogayaku was purple with red spots down her back and Sango was orange with black streaks. Naruto was probably the only toddler in the world that wasn't afraid of a snake. Kogayaku had brought Anko her weapons back when she tensed up. Something wrong? Do you hear that buzz? Anko quietly asked. Kogayaku listened. Luckily, as a summons, she had some skills normal snakes didn't, such as being able to hear like humans could rather than just vibrations through the ground. Yeah, Ido. Sounds like bees or something. Soon they both noticed a large swarm of dangerous-sounding small insects flying towards their house and settling around the closed window of the kids' room. They couldn't get in thanks to a few rudimentary seals Orochimaru knew, but they weren't going to stop trying. Anko and Kogayaku almost hid until they saw the bugs weren't after them. Just Naruto, obviously. Problem was there was nothing either of them could do about it, except one possibility. Kogayaku saw Anko pull out her emergency paper bomb kunai and stop her before she could use it. No, don't. It won't get rid of all of them, and you'll just make it easier for them to get inside. What should I do then? Before the purple snake could answer, a mysterious person dressed like an Umbu agent came up behind them and knocked Anko out. Kogayaku grew to the size of a python and constricted herself around the intruder, only for him to replace himself with a log. With only one thing left to do, Kogayaku dragged Anko into a safe spot outside the house, got smaller, and darted to Orochimaru's office as fast as she could. Orochimaru, one of the heads of Konoha's R&D department, was going over some proposals for funds to explore researching new ideas and why they were advisable. Many were, but they had to be prioritized first. I've got requests for extra protein supplements to the Akimichis. Well, they may have to use their own funds, if possible. This guy wants to see if one could find a way to siphon off another chakra like a parasite. Handy, but maybe risky. This guy wants to see what would happen if cells from someone with a Kekkei Genkai were introduced into the body of someone without one. I am intrigued. And this guy, Amachi wants to try new terrain to test possible physical adaptability. Claims to be very promising. Before Orochimaru could make a decision on anything, Kogayaku came in through the air duct. Orochimaru-sama. Danger at the house. He took the snake into his hands and shoo-shined away without a word. When he showed up in front, he immediately rushed inside and heard hissing coming from the kids' room. He went in to see Naruto sleeping, ignorant of the trouble, but Sango was large and looking outside. Kogayaku left Orochimaru to go check on Anko. Sango, what happened? A large swarm of bugs, acting like they were on a mission, tried to get in. And some Umbu knocked Anko-chan out, but got away before Kogayaku-san could punish them. Sounds like an Aburame, but why would they do this? They've never had a problem with us before. Apparently one does. The orange snake stated hastily. Orochimaru frowned. I'm bringing this up to the Hokage. Sarutobi knew what to expect when his pale student entered his office. What would happen now, Orochimaru? Sensei, things are getting out of hand. The clans are now starting to act out against Naruto. They've kept their distance, probably to avoid offending me. But now a confirmed attack from an Aburame shows this situation isn't getting better. A confirmed attack. How many ninjas use insect swarms? Orochimaru sarcastically asked. I see, the Sandaime responded. But can you confirm the individual? No, I cannot. But I know this won't be the last time. Sensei, I know you've done what you can for the boy, but I'm seriously reconsidering whether or not this is the best environment for him. For either of them. Sarutobi blinked. Orochimaru, that can't be done. It's not safe for them out there. It's not safe for them in here either. If anything, it's worse. Orochimaru shouted angrily. You've put in so much effort to keep Naruto from having enemies outside the village, but you keep forgetting he has them inside it too. I forget nothing, Orochimaru. Sarutobi countered sternly. I'm not oblivious to the torment that has been going on at your household. Have you forgotten that all those arrested have suffered for their crimes? You have helped, but those not arrested just find new ways to hurt them, usually through their own children. Are you aware that none of the parents will let their kids play with Anko-chan anymore? Just because she's the demon's sister? She used to have a whole network of friends. Now I can count the number of kids that still dare to talk to her on one hand. And do you honestly think Naruto will be in a better situation when he's older? Does this sound like a healthy environment for them? No, but I can't very well tell parents how to raise their children, nor the children to disobey their parents. Orochimaru folded his arms. Not only that, but many of the merchants are trying things too. Anko-chan can barely buy anything unless I'm right there with her, since they won't dare overcharge or deny me. And I know the situation won't be any different when Naruto's older. You think it's good for them to be in a town that denies them fair prices, or maybe the right to shop even if they can pay? Sarutobi didn't answer, mostly because he knew his student had more say. Sensei, I've gone to a lot of trouble to ensure the safety of those two. I even have snakes around them 24/7, and I could only do that by giving Manda 4 living scarifices, which I got thanks to your order. Sarutobi nodded in recollection. Furambu were found guilty of trying to murder the 2 children by arson, and he allowed Orochimaru to execute the punishment. While brutal, at least some good came out of it in the form of snake guardians. Sensei, I'm seriously considering that this is not the best place for them to live. Orochimaru, your concern is admirable. Sarutobi started. Spare me the bullshit, Sensei. I know you're going to try to convince me they're better off here. Give me one good reason why I should let them stay here any longer rather than just take them away. Simple, Sarutobi stated. Minato sacrificed his life so his son could protect this village. If you take him away from it, it will make his sacrifice meaningless. If the villagers keep trying to kill him, it'll have the same results. Orochimaru countered. If Minato could speak to you right now, what would he say? I don't know. Maybe he'd agree with you. Maybe he wouldn't. The council and citizens here have been trying to speak for Minato so much since his death, I'm almost afraid to now. But consider this, Orochimaru. You're only the acting guardian of Naruto. Jiraiya and Tsunade are still the ones with majority say regarding his whereabouts, and Jiraiya thinks that dash. Shut the fuck up, Sensei. Now, Orochimaru looked pissed. How can you possibly have the nerve to say that? You actually expect me to believe that Jiraiya's opinion of Naruto's well-being outclasses mine, the one who has actually been raising the boy for the past 2 years? The man hasn't even seen Naruto in that time, and he's the one who knows best? He's not the one who's taken hits for the boy, nor has he fed or clothed or sheltered him. Hell, Sensei, you know as well as I do Anko-chan and I are the only ones who have any real claim to be the boy's family. Well, I can't argue that, but still, give the village another chance for the children to fit into. For my sake, if nothing else. Orochimaru sighed. Fine, Sensei. I'll try to tolerate this a little more. But if nothing changes for the better, I will do something about it, with your permission or not. Sarutobi slowly nodded in acceptance. Very well. Tell them hi for me. Orochimaru nodded and then poofed away, revealing he had been a shadow clone the whole time. Guess he's getting even more protective of them both. Does that make him a mother hen snake? Ch3 pain. A few days later, without attacks, Orochimaru had a visitor come to him at his office. "Ah, Danzo-san, what brings you here today?" Orochimaru had always tried to be civil to the crippled council member, mainly because the Warhawk had always supported the R&D department to improve shinobi abilities, but that didn't mean Orochimaru trusted him. After all, this guy had been the only member of the civilian council to not order Naruto's death, and Orochimaru did not believe the man was just being compassionate back then. "Well, Orochimaru, I have a proposition for you. You see, I've heard from a colleague of mine that you're experimenting on the introduction of Kekkei Genkai into new hosts. And I've come AC dash." "Hold on a second," Orochimaru interrupted. "A colleague told you? I haven't discussed that with anyone, and I haven't even approved the start of the experiment." "My source must have been the researcher to submit the request then. I was under the impression that it had already been approved," Danzo calmly answered. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. "What goes on here isn't meant to be discussed with those outside to keep our secrets safe. You, of all people, Danzo, should know the value of keeping secrets." "You have no idea how right you are," Danzo quickly thought. "Well, back to what I was saying, I had chanced upon some stored DNA of the Shodai, Hokage. And as you know, your teammate Tsunade Senju is the last known of that bloodline, and it's dormant in females. And she's also reached the age where conception is almost impossible, if not already impossible. A very useful Kekkei Genkai, for us, could be lost forever, unless we seek a new means to keep it going." Orochimaru thought it over. "Well, it sounds reasonable, but what if the subject rejects the new DNA? That's what experiments are for. Even so, I have multiple fields to explore, and I can't give funding to them all." Danzo smiled. "Tell you what, I'll supply the funds for this project, and we'll use the Mokuton as the trial run. If we can succeed in getting a successful user, then we can someday acquire indefinite amounts of Kekkei Genkai for our village." "And in return?" Orochimaru asked. "Nothing at the moment. How about an IOU?" Orochimaru did not like the sound of that. An IOU to this man was like having one to the Yakuza. But the idea he was proposing sounded enticing. "All right, we'll go forward with it. You'll have to supply us with about 3 million Ryo up front, though, and your IOU must be within reason." Danzo smiled like he got away with murder. "Pleasure doing business with you, Orochimaru-san. Let's hope for the best." Another year went by, and things sort of stabilized for the Orochi household. Attacks lessened, but did not stop, and the civilians resorted to angry glares when they saw Naruto and Anko. Orochimaru had made it clear that any attacks would be returned just as badly to the attackers by himself personally, and Sarutobi said he had the rights to. Anko lost more and more friends because of their parents' prejudices or peer pressure, so now she was down to 2. The first was a girl named Kurinai Yuhi, whose parents were more open-minded to the Jinchuriki in his situation. The second was an orphan boy named Kabuto Yakushi, recently brought to the village after being found alone in a battlefield and didn't mind the kids either. Neither were as lively as Anko usually was, but they could keep up with her. Naruto himself didn't have too many friends. It was hard to when most parents didn't want to bring their children over. Generally speaking, if Naruto's secret didn't keep them away, his snake guardians scare them off without even trying. Sango didn't like that, but she was sworn to protect him, so she couldn't just leave him vulnerable. And it got tougher after the insect attack, since Orochimaru wouldn't let anyone from a clan enter his house without his personal approval and presence. So in short, only the Yamanaka, Nara, and Akimichi clan heads had their children come over because they trusted the Yandame's skills and hoped their kids wouldn't be afraid of snakes later on. The Hyuga would have if they were more open to mingle with others, and the Uchihas deemed the whole issue unworthy of significance, their words. At the present time, a soon-to-be 3-year-old Naruto was hanging out at the Yamanaka flower shop with a 3-year-old Ino, while Orochimaru and Anko were trying to find him a birthday present or two. Inoichi was watching the two kids have fun their own way in the back of the room while going over a newspaper and noticed nothing out of place. There were a few insects buzzing around, but that was normal for a place filled to the brim with flowers. But after a little bit, the buzzing noise of insects got a little too loud to be normal, and Inoichi got suspicious. The kids noticed it and got scared, looking to Inoichi to do something about it. He looked around sharply but saw nothing suspicious, but went for the cabinet and grabbed the pesticide to be sure. A large black swarm of insects massed together through the open windows and entered the unsealed building. Ino screamed and ran for her father. Naruto tried to as well, but the insects swiftly covered his body and started attacking him. He screamed and tried to swat them all off, but fell to the floor and his movement slowed. Sango could do nothing but watch and hate herself for it. Something's not right. Those aren't normal aburame insects. Those just eat chakra, not sting and bite. These things are actually wounding Naruto. Inoichi thought, as horrified as he and his daughter looked. Ino tried to help swat them off, but her father grabbed her hand. No, don't. Those bugs will hurt you too. Use the spray too, Chan. Ino pleaded. I can't now. Naruto would get poisoned too. Naruto screamed again, and his body glowed a faint red. The insects backed off a bit, but didn't leave his body or stop entirely. Unable to take the pain anymore, Naruto did the one thing any child in his situation would do. He ran. He didn't know where he was going or what he'd do when he got there, but he had to just run. The Yamanakas followed. Think you might like this, Jizan? Anko asked as she pointed to a sword on display in a window. Orochimaru was about to answer, but any answer died on his tongue when he heard a familiar scream down the street. Anko heard it too and lost interest in the question entirely. Both looked down the street in hopes they were wrong. They saw a young child running around with a swarm of bugs clinging to him. A few passerby would try to beat the bugs off him, but they moved off on their own just enough to reveal who the child was. Once people saw, they either looked the other way or kept beating him for a different reason. Orochimaru, Anko, and Kogayaku rushed to help him. They were a little relieved when an Umbu agent dropped by the boy and did a fireball jutsu. The bugs fled off the boy, leaving Naruto to take the brunt of the attack. Orochimaru and Anko were horrified by this, and even more so to see the Umbu didn't look repentant or even tempted to put out the flame. Although Orochimaru saw that last part more than Anko did. Orochimaru used a gentle wind jutsu to put out the flame while Anko yelled at the Umbu, crying in anger. You jerk! You missed! That depends on where I was aiming. Anko gasped and then began hitting the masked ninja's legs, to which he reacted by kicking her off. She was undaunted by this and tried to attack again, but he simply left the area, seeing no reason to stick around anymore. But not before Kogayaku managed to give him a painful bite on his right calf. Before the insects could attack again, Orochimaru used a fire jutsu on them as intended, and they were completely incinerated. He looked at Naruto and was very pissed, but not at Naruto, of course. The blonde boy had second-degree burns almost all over his arms and face, with the clothed areas only bearing first-degree burns, and was breathing heavily. Otudo, is he going to be okay, Jizan? Anko asked tearily, on the verge of hysteria. Orochimaru carefully picked him up. He will be. I know how to best help him. Anko-chan, get on my back. Kogayaku, go to get Sango. The purple snake nodded and darted away, while Anko got a hold of the snake's Sannin's shoulders. He then darted off to a safe place for them all. Some civilians started to wonder if maybe the one Sannin still in town had been pushed too far. That's it. I've had enough of this. Minato must be rolling around in his grave. Orochimaru angrily thought as he entered his house and placed Naruto down on the couch. The Kyuubi's chakra was already healing the young boy, and fortunately for him, he was unconscious by now. The two snakes entered the house a few moments later and got by the couch too. Anko, with tear-streaked cheeks and red eyes, hovered over her brother figure like a watchdog. Jizan, what's going to happen to him? He'll be fine, Anko-chan. He's already healing and should be as good as new by tonight. What should we do about that bastard that burned him? Anko asked, sounding a little more angry now. Orochimaru never bothered to enforce appropriate language for the kids, since they heard offensive things almost daily anyway. We'll see to him, and also whoever sent those bugs at him. That wasn't natural either. But first, I've got something bigger in mind. Anko blinked. Like what, Jizan? This has gone on for far too long. Sarutobi-sensei can't bargain his way out of this. I'm going to make sure this stops once and for all. The snake Sannin stated with hostility and venom, and maybe a little glee at the last idea. Anko smiled. Can I help? Absolutely. But we have to act tonight, and you can't tell a soul. He told her, to which she nodded. Good. Now go pack up everything you have. We're going on a little trip. How long? Long enough. Anko looked worried about having to maybe leave her home and remaining friends for who knows how long. But after looking at Naruto one more time, she knew it was a matter of time before that happened to her too. And Orochimaru had never led her wrong before. I'll be ready in a jiffy, she told him before heading for her room. It won't be that easy, Master Orochimaru, Kogayaka commented. Oh, I know that. That's why I'm going to put on a big show for Konoha and do a little damage too. The pale Sannin replied. Like what? Sengo asked. Well, let's just say Konoha will learn what happens when you try to corner Viper, he told them with a sinister chuckle. And best of all, since that meeting with the Kumo representatives is tonight, few will be available to interfere in my little scheme. CH4 Deception. Sarutobi arrived at the Orochi household to see it burning to the ground. The Umbu that arrived with him began immediately putting it out with water jutsus. Once the fire was gone, they salvaged through the wreckage for any bodies. Sarutobi prayed they wouldn't find any. One of the Umbu captains came close to the elderly Hokage. Hokage-sama, there's little you can do here. Perhaps it would be more beneficial for you to investigate the other arson incident. So this is a confirmed arson? Sarutobi asked, not that he doubted, of course. Most likely, sir. Orochimaru-sama was a very skilled ninja, so this being just an accident is highly unlikely. My guess is someone with a few matches or something decided to act against the occupants and caught them off guard. Sarutobi nodded, having come to the same conclusion. I'm sorry for everything, Orochimaru. Anko. Naruto, at least you're out of your misery now. He sighed, then thought of something else. Wait, if this was just a stroke of luck, it would be too much of a coincidence for Orochimaru's lab to be struck at the same time. Something's going on here. I will go check out the other scene, as you suggested. Take all bodies to the morgue or infirmary, whichever is appropriate for them. Sarutobi told the Umbu captain before heading off for the R&D building. Said Umbu returned to work with the others going through the wreckage. Find anything? No confirmed deaths yet, sir. A weasel-masked Umbu told him. Good. Let's hope it stays that way, or Hokage-sama will not be happy. When Sarutobi made it to the burning wing of the building, he didn't know what he expected to find. But he definitely didn't expect to find Orochimaru standing in the flames, crying while all his work burned to ashes. Orochimaru, what is the meaning of this? Did you do this? The snake Sannin slowly turned to look at his mentor, eyes watering but as cold and hard as steel. No, sensei. I have done nothing. It's Konoha that has done all this. And maybe you by passive association too, but I won't hold you to it. What are you talking about? I should have done what I thought was best long ago. Your pleas be damned. But because I felt I owed you, I stayed and kept Naruto here. And now he's gone. Sarutobi paled. You don't mean? Orochimaru nodded. Another attack, this time a successful one. Ask the Yamanakas, they saw it too. Naruto was ambushed by some type of insect I've never seen before, making me think the Aburames have others besides their norms or someone else was framing them. Either way, that combined to someone setting my house on fire, Naruto didn't make it, and Anko-chan got caught in the flames. Not to mention, when all the civilians and even an Umbu wearing a pig mask saw him, they just added to his pain. I bet the Umbu started the fire since he used a fire jutsu on Naruto earlier today. Sarutobi sighed, feeling a wave of remorse and regret. Orochimaru, I'm sorry for your loss. Spare me the bullshit sentiment, sensei. I've warned you several times this could happen, and you always said no one would go that far. Well, guess what? They did, and my two godchildren are dead because you thought it was easier to not get involved more than you did. And I don't care what some legal form may say. Naruto was mine, and all my work for this village has been destroyed by someone else too. He spread his arms to better imply the fire going on around themselves. This is what Konoha has come to, trying to kill a child and claiming he didn't deserve to even be conceived, and attacking those close to him for spite. This is the Konoha Minato died for. Naruto should not have had to suffer for this horrid place. Orochimaru. Sarutobi was now worried about what his student would do in retaliation. Sensei, I'm going to take a page out of Tsunade's book and tell them all to fuck off. After tonight, not even you can give me reason to stay here even until the sun rises. I'm wiping my hands off Konoha as of now. Sarutobi knew he couldn't stop his student, and deep down he couldn't fault him for taking this course of action. Where will you go? What will you do? For the first time in this entire discussion, Orochimaru grinned. People can't tell a secret they don't know. Sensei? If I don't know, I'll be forced to put you in the bingo book as a missing nin. Orochimaru scoffed. Like you did with Tsunade. The slug Sannin and her apprentice were probably the only registered ninja under Konoha that were not contained within the city and not classified as missing nin. Jiraiya wasn't classified that way because he was gone regularly for business in Tsunade's case. Just leisure or apathy. Maybe both, but she wasn't listed in the book. Tsunade is no threat to us. With you in this emotional state, I can't promise anything. Sarutobi replied sternly. I will not ally myself with any enemy village sensei, but neither will I ally myself with this one anymore. So what are you going to do? Just wander around and wait to die? Oh, I'm in no hurry for death. Never have been. But I'll find something to do to occupy myself. But it's none of your business, sensei. Now if you'll excuse me, I'll getting a little too hot in here. Orochimaru said before, shoe shining away. Sarutobi did the same, and the building continued to burn until Umbu arrived to put it out. Before the meeting with Kyumo could resume, Sarutobi called the whole council together. Tonight, Naruto Uzumaki has been killed by some unknown arsonist. A few cheers from over half the council made him pause and flare up his ki to silence them. And because of that and the reaction I just witnessed, Orochimaru has cut all ties to the village. He can't do that. We need him here. A random civilian shouted. Sarutobi glared some more. Maybe you should have thought of that before encouraging all that mistreatment amongst the kids in his care. Both of them are dead now because of idiots like you all. Why the hell should he remain here to keep working for such a village? Would you? At least my child isn't a monster. Another random member commented, ignoring the Hokage's glare. Irregardless of how you all may see the situation, Orochimaru sees it as the final straw for his patience. He has no reason to help us anymore, and I probably wouldn't be surprised if he decided to do something drastic later on. Feel proud of yourselves, for you've helped us lose a valuable shinobi and possibly made several people you know targets of his wrath. And for what? Because you can't let go of a grudge no matter who the victim is? What a shining example of good leadership. But enough of this, let's just finish this meeting and call a night. They all followed his lead, but several were already celebrating in their heads over the reported death of a blonde whiskered boy. Did it work? Anko asked as her foster uncle came into view from her hiding spot, a bunker outside the city walls designed for civilian safety in invasion times. Like a charm, Orochimaru told her as he ruffled her hair. By tomorrow morning, everyone will think you and Naruto are dead and I left grieving. We can find somewhere to live with no one looking for you too. And I can train you both to fight back like shinobi should. Anko smiled. She was glad for that. Orochimaru told her they were going to leave their home and not come back. She was a little frightened, especially if Tracker Ninja tried to find them. He told her he was going to stage their deaths, and that way no one would hunt them. Everyone had to think that, even the Hokage, or it wouldn't work. And apparently it did. No more bad people? Well, no more from Konoha at least. There are still enemies outside, but they won't attack as much. Orochimaru-sama, is it true we can't go back? A young boy with white hair asked. Well, you could, but where would you go, Kabuto-kun? Orochimaru found the boy in the lab before the fire had started to attract Sarutobi. Apparently the boy had been the subject of a few experiences Danzo had been doing without Orochimaru's knowledge. He wasn't supposed to even be involved, but Danzo had his own agenda, and damn those that didn't go along with it. He had been trying to create many Kekkei Genkais, with just the Mokutan test being a cover front. According to the results Orochimaru saw tonight, most subjects dies, but 2 young boys and 1 girl survived. One was about Anko's age, named Yamato, and he was a success in acquiring the Mokutan, and the only one at that. Kabuto had been the second boy and the subject of better-than-normal healing experiments, and they seemed to work too. The girl had been Kurinai, who who had not been tested on yet, but had been selected since she was Anko's friend. Her parents were killed 2 days ago, making her an orphan now. And according to the results, a second lab had been doing similar work under Danzo's orders, masked as Orochimaru's approval, in the land of the sea, being headed by a researcher, Orochimaru, named Amachi. And he had some successes too. Orochimaru, already unnerved by the horrible treatment done to Naruto and Anko, became even more upset when this was revealed to him. His work was being usurped from him under the guise of his own approval, making it look like it was all his idea. There might have been a time he would it, but he was in no mood for it now. So he took the kids to a safe place, went back and set fire to the lab to destroy his notes, ensuring no one else could misuse his work, and waited for Sarutobi to show up and act his part. He lied about Naruto and Anko's death to ensure no one else would follow him, believing him to have left in grief rather than protecting the children. Back at the present, Orochimaru let everyone who had been hiding come back outside. If you want to go back, Kabuto-kun, you can, as long as you swear not to say a word about tonight. Same for you, Kurenai-chan. The bespectacled boy sighed wearily. No, that's all right, Orochimaru-sama. I don't have any family there, so what do I have to go back to? Kurenai tearfully nodded. Yeah, me too. Where will we go? Anko asked. Kogayaku settled on her shoulders to hear this, while Sango did the same with Naruto. Yamato looked at the snakes wide-eyed, afraid they would bite. First, we're going to settle some business in Land of the Sea with someone misusing my work. And then we'll go somewhere I know no one we can't trust will find us there. Where? Naruto asked. I'll tell you later. Not a good idea to say too much near here, and we should get out of here. Orochimaru answered. With no other words, he picked up Naruto and placed him on his back. Kogayaku got larger and let Anko and Kurenai ride her, with Sango doing the same for Kabuto and Yamato. They started running or slithering away from Konoha, not sure when or if they'd ever see that village again. Orochimaru also created several shadow clones and had them run in several directions with extra summoned snakes to tag along, making it that much harder for anyone to find them. An hour later, the kids had fallen asleep, and everyone on the move slowed down a little to not disturb them too much. Kogayaku stopped completely, though, and turned her head around. Orochimaru, I smell someone coming up from behind. The pale Sannin placed Naruto on Sango's back, getting ready to fight. He went off to get rid of this potential threat, only to find a Nin running towards Land of Lightning. He would have done nothing about it, except he saw the burlap bag the Nin carried with something moving inside it trying to get out. Remembering the meeting that had been going on, he suspected something foul and intercepted the ninja. That had better not be what I think you have in there. None of your business, freak, the ninja told him bitterly. Orochimaru pulled out Kusanagi and stabbed the man before he could get away. He then took the bag and opened it to find a bruised and crying little girl with white eyes. So, did you decide on your own to kidnap a child, or were you ordered to? Fuck you, the Nin answered, coughing up some blood. Arakamo kicked his head, snapping his neck, then held the crying hurt girl. Don't worry, you're safe now. I am Orochimaru. What's your name? Hinata. Well, Hinata-chan, want me to have someone take you home? He asked, and got worried when she looked even more frightened and shook her head no fiercely. Why? What's wrong? Everyone there's bad. Okasan was good but now gone. Everyone else hate me. Don't want to go back. Please don't make me. She broke down after that and wept into his chest. Orochimaru then noticed that some of the bruises weren't as fresh as others, meaning she had been hurt before the kidnapping. I can't believe it. It sounds like some of the Hyuga like to beat up their own rather than just Naruto. That place keeps getting worse and worse. He calmed himself before he spoke to avoid upsetting Hinata. Don't worry, you'll stay with us in the meantime. We're going to find a home where bad things like that don't happen to kids like you. She gasped and hugged him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No sweat. Now, get some rest and we can get out of here, far away from Konoha. He then looked at the dead shinobi. But first, a little something for whoever told him to do this. When the dead Nin was found a few days later, it looked like a rock slide had happened and crushed him. The wound from a blade looked to be done by accident in the fall. Hinata's body couldn't be found, but the bag was found snagged on a branch in a river downstream. implying her body was lost at sea. And since the death appeared to be an act of kami rather than caused by Konoha, Kyumo couldn't make a demand for a Hyuga death, sparing Hizashi. The Hyugas were grateful, but spared no time or effort to confirm Hinata's death. 5 marked. After a long run and a boat ride from the southern edge of Land of Fire's coastline, Orochimaru and his charges had reached the Land of the Sea. He himself had set up a lab there to attempt some things away from Konoha to ensure some secrets didn't leak out in case of spies, plus some direct access to aquatic resources helped. He hadn't been there in years, so another researcher named Amachi had been running it in the meanwhile. "Is this where we're going to stay, Jizan?" Anko asked as she got out of the boat. Orochimaru shook his head. "Can't. This would be one of the first places they'd check for me. We're here to see just what was done while I was away. Then we'll head for our new home." "Where is that?" Kurenai asked. "I told you I'd tell you when we get there." Everyone got off the boat. Orochimaru and the 2 snakes led the 5 kids towards the hidden lab built by the shore, designed to look like a run-down building no one ever cared to renovate. At least on the surface. Inside, it was everything a laboratory was supposed to be. Orochimaru had made it that way himself, using the old, hiding in plain sight principle to make it so unlikely to be bothered with. And even if someone did bother to try and sneak inside, there were workers already inside who could get rid of them. Orochimaru led everyone inside while carrying Hinata. The poor girl had barely walked at all since she came into his company, and he suspected it was more because of shock or fear than her injuries. She said even less too, but she at least smiled when everyone tried to lift her spirits. Orochimaru led them through the corridors into the building, a faint trail of light bulbs guiding him into the research center. None of the kids asked where they were going since he already explained it to them, but they started to feel something was wrong here. Orochimaru sensed nothing, well used to surroundings such as this from decades of ninjahood. He came to a closed door that wasn't locked, so he opened it and stepped inside. Right away, he wished he hadn't done that, to spare the children from the sight of the room's contents, if nothing else. There were large glass containers that looked like oversized test tubes lined against one side of the room, each but 2 with a person inside it. The ages and genders varied, and out of all of them, only one container had a glowing light on it, indicating something unique but not immediately obvious. There was also a table with various pieces of lab equipment and paper spread about. It looked like someone here had been doing some rather unorthodox human experimenting here, something the kids weren't supposed to see. "What is this place?" Kurenai asked. "This was a lab to see how we could improve our ninjas' physical capabilities." Orochimaru answered. "This wasn't what I was expecting, though. Especially that, whatever that is." He then pointed to the glass tubes. "Are they even alive?" Yamato asked, having flashbacks to the experiments done on him for the past year and being the only one to walk away alive from it. Orochimaru carefully looked over each one. The one tank with the glowing light had a monitor that showed a faint heartbeat. He then noticed all the tanks had monitors too, but this one was the only one actually working. And judging by the size of the person inside, the test subject was a very young child, making the pale Sannin uneasy. "This one is. I'm going to get her out of there." He checked everywhere for a latch of some kind and found one near the top of the tank. He pulled it, and the liquid inside the container drained out, letting the captive inside sink to the bottom. Once it was drained, the glass casing opened up, and Orochimaru pulled the small person out onto the floor. This test subject was indeed a young child, a girl close to Naruto and Hinata's age who couldn't possibly be more than half a year older at most. She had long purple hair and a pale complexion, but not albino-ish like Orochimaru. She also didn't have any clothes on, so Orochimaru wrapped her in his jacket to keep her covered. In doing so, he saw a strange mark on her left shoulder that looked like 3 tomos inside a circle, resembling a seal of some sort. "Is she okay?" Naruto asked. "I think, but I'm not sure. Somebody did something weird to her." "Ah, Orochimaru-sama. Nice to have you drop by," a new voice said from a door to the left of the one everyone had entered from. Orochimaru turned to see a thin man with white hair and a long nose standing in a lab coat with his hands behind his back. "Amachi, what have you been doing here?" Orochimaru asked. "Why, exactly what you ordered me to do. Try to find new ways to enhance ninja physical skills and terrain adaptability." This is not what I had in mind. Orochimaru snapped, pointing to the glass tubes and the unconsciousness purple-haired girl. No, but it's even better. You see, I found a lost boy some time ago who has every unusual blood, with so much potential to be unleashed. Maybe even the first of a new Kekiai Genkai. Apparently, he can actually shape-shift during times of bloodlust or stress, and to make it even better, with the right method, his blood can give those powers to others as well. Amachi told Orochimaru. Orochimaru admitted to himself the idea was an interesting one, but something about this bothered him. And you experimented on children too? How could you? Amachi shrugged. Well, in order for it to work, the blood must be injected into the jugular, and if the subject survives the transfer, a mark appears there. For children, the survival rate appears to be the highest, so I had to work with young ones. But I've been running kind of low, so I'm glad you brought me some more. Now, Orochimaru was mad. Don't even think about it. I'm trying to give these children a bright future, not one where others think less of them for whatever reason they have. Kogayaku and Sengo got in front of the kids defensively and became anaconda-sized. Amachi was unintimidated. Don't you think they'd be better off with the gift I can give them? Think about it. A secondary source of chakra if the primary one runs dangerously low. And if the user gets close to death, a second stage is activated and the user gets the ability to transform into a second form, useful for terrain handling and combat purposes. What ninja wouldn't want that? You can't force this on kids that don't want it, the Sannin replied. The researcher shrugged. They're children. They don't know what they want. I don't think I can let you keep doing this, Amachi. Orochimaru stated as he pulled out some explosive tags. He didn't light them since that might put the children in danger, but he did show them off. Guess I'll have to show you how effective my work can be, Amachi said as he swiftly pulled out a syringe and threw it at the group. Before anyone could block it, the needle struck Anko in her jugular, making her scream. Anko-chan! Everyone yelled as Orochimaru pulled the syringe out. Anko kept yelling and squirming on the floor. It hurts! It hurts! The beginnings of the curse marks started to form around the puncture wound like a burn. While they were distracted with Anko's agony, Amachi took the opportunity to get several more syringes and hit all the remaining children in the jugular with great aim. All of them fell screaming and writhing as their blood burned internally. Kogayaku and Sengo wrapped around the long-nosed researcher and began constricting him tightly. Orochimaru stood in front of him. Why the hell did you do that? And while we're at it, how are you able to? Well, you needed to be convinced my work has value. As for how well, I guess you and your snake friend are just too slow to do anything about it. Forgive us, Orochimaru-sama. We were more focused on Anko-chan than the others for that brief moment. Sengo said regretfully. I was at fault too for that. Amachi, tell me you have an antidote for this. Amachi tried to hold in a laugh but failed and laughed loudly. Now why the hell would I create an antidote for a power-up? What do you think I am? Stupid. Orochimaru was really disgusted with this man. Long ago, he thought he was rather insightful and quite possibly capable of opening new frontiers for Konoha's ninjas. Apparently that was true, but he used it for the wrong reasons. Had he been doing this to willing subjects or adults, Orochimaru might not have minded too much. In time, he would have probably used this procedure to give the village's shinobi an extra edge against their enemies. But the Sannin had several children under his care, and anybody who tried to hurt them was automatically an enemy. Kogayaku, Sengo, finish him off. The two snakes hissed happily and tightened their grip on him more and more until he was crushed thinner than a used-up toothpaste tube. Orochimaru checked on all the kids at once, first noting they had stopped screaming, just breathing deeply and asleep. On each one of their neck bases was a curse mark, 3 tomos inside a circle. Even Naruto had one. Damn, I thought maybe the Kyuubi's chakra could filter out of his system. Wonder why it didn't. Truth was, at this point of time, all the Kyuubi's chakra could do for Naruto was heal physical wounds and nothing more. That would change as he got older, but for now to do more would be dangerous to his health. So the curse mark was there to stay. Orochimaru felt there was only one thing he could do here. With the two snakes' help, he pulled all the children, even the extra girl, back outside and went in to recover any info regarding this curse mark before setting the place on fire with explosive tags. He didn't see any of Amachi's assistants inside, and while that bothered him, he figured it was probably for the best. Less trouble to deal with. He then got back on the boat and headed back for the mainland. Night came and Anko was the first to recover, sitting upright around a campfire. She looked around to see Orochimaru sitting on a log watching over them all with Kogayaku and Sango, and also the new girl who seemed to be awake already. What happened, Jizan? It's a long story, Anko-chan. I'll tell you when the others wake up too, so I don't have to repeat it. Orochimaru told her, then offered her a piece of dango he bought in the last town. Want some? She eagerly took it, but ate slowly. The new girl said to Anko, sorry you had to get the seal too. Seal? Anko asked, then her eyes darted to the mark on the other purple-headed girl's shoulder. Anko tenderly touched her shoulder and felt the flesh was soft and painful to touch, making her pull her fingers back and wince. What happened to me? Orochimaru sighed. I'm sorry, Anko-chan, but that man gave you something bad and I don't know how to get rid of it. How bad? Bad enough that some people could call you a monster for it. Anko shrugged. They already do that. What else is new? Well, according to what I've been reading, this mark gives you a chakra boost when you run low, but it means you're more likely to act violently when that happens. And there's a second stage involved if you almost die, giving you the ability to transform into some kind of creature when you need to. Orochimaru explained. Anko blinked in surprise. And there's nothing you can do about it? He shook his head. Maybe I can get Jiraiya to seal its effects, but I haven't seen him in years, so I can't promise that. Anko then looked over Naruto and the others, who started showing signs of waking up soon. Then I'll use it to defend my Otudo. If I'm stuck with this, might as well give it a good use. Anko-chan, I wouldn't. Orochimaru started to protest, then thought it over, and slowly nodded. If that's what you want. The others woke up, and Orochimaru explained to them what happened and what they involuntarily acquired. Not surprisingly, they were unhappy, but they had the same thoughts about it as Anko did. Orochimaru hoped that they wouldn't come to regret this later on. 6 plans. About 3 weeks after leaving Konoha, Orochimaru had finally reached his destination, a hidden underground chamber in Land of Rice Paddies. In that time, he had kept a careful eye on all the children with him, still upset at what had happened to them in Land of the Sea. The only reason it happened at all was because he hadn't been expecting it the first time, and he was occupied the next time. Another reason might be that the syringes Amachi used were designed like Sanbon needles more than standard syringes with automatic injection features built in, and he did always have great aim when it came to projectiles. Orochimaru cursed himself, wishing he had only been more prepared for the long-nosed researcher to actually try something. But he wasn't, and now all the kids in his care might suffer from it. So far, he hadn't seen anything negative from what he dubbed the curse mark outside an occasional brief flash of pain. He wondered if that was meant to encourage the person to use it or just a nasty side effect. The scroll with all the info regarding it didn't say much about it. It did, however, come with several sealed-up samples of the blood-based formula used to give one the mark and abilities. Orochimaru kept it around in the hopes of someday reverse engineering it and ridding the kids of it, or, at the very least, have a better understanding of how it works. For the time being, he ignored that and went inside the hideout. Since it was quite dark underground, he used a fire jutsu to light the candles left on the walls to illuminate the place better. This place reminds me of those haunted houses you see in movies. Kabuto stated. Why do we come here? Kunai asked, eyes darting around as if looking for something. A long time ago, me and my teammates found this abandoned place during an A-rank mission that was taking longer than we expected it to. We used it to hide ourselves and ambush our enemies. Afterwards, we agreed this would be our secure location to come to if we needed to go somewhere private. So only Jiraiya or Tsunade would think to come here. The one adult present explained. Are they coming? Naruto asked, not knowing who they were or his connection to them. Orochimaru sadly sighed. No, they aren't. They don't know I'm here, and I'd rather they don't find out yet. If I saw either of them, soon, I'd be very mad at them. How come? All the children asked. Orochimaru wasn't going to like this, but knew it needed to be done. Naruto, I wasn't supposed to be the one to watch over you all these years. Jiraiya and Tsunade were. Naruto looked surprised. Then why didn't they? Orochimaru shrugged. I'm not entirely sure. I personally think Jiraiya just didn't want to juggle you and his work, so he chose his work first, and Tsunade was more interested in doing her own thing than taking some responsibility. If they have other reasons, I'd love to hear them, but that's all I can assume for now. Several of the kids frowned at hearing this, but Naruto just hung his head. You okay, Naruto? Said Blonde lifted his head, showing off a grin, with some small tears in the corners of his eyes. I'm Fine Jizun. At least you're here for me. Always will, kid. You can count on it. How long are we going to be here? Hinata asked. Not too long. Just long enough for me to check up an old idea of mine and see if we could go ahead with it. Orochimaru told them with a grin, making them all feel better. Later that evening, Orochimaru was seated at an old desk looking over some old papers he brought with him, with some storage scrolls next to him as well. Anko, Kurenai, Isaribi, Kabuto, and Yamato were currently looking around the place to get a better feel for it and make sure there were no unwelcome surprises there, with Kogayaku tagging along in case there were some. Hinata was currently taking a nap with Sengo curled up to be the pillow, resting peacefully. Orochimaru was glad to see that since while the girl had been healing, she kept having bad dreams, presumably about what had hurt her in the first place. Naruto was awake and trying to see what Orochimaru was interested in at the moment. What's you doing, Jizan? Going over something I haven't in a long time. Like what? You probably wouldn't understand. It's boring grown-up stuff. The snake Sannin answered. Then why are you doing it if it's boring? Naruto innocently asked. Boring for you, not me. And hopefully, not the daimyo of this country either. Orochimaru corrected. Why? Let's just say that if he agrees with me, then we'll be secure for years to come. Orochimaru explained as best he could without revealing too much. I can't tell you more than that, sorry. Naruto looked upset but didn't argue and decided to just pace around until the others returned. Excuse me, Daimyo-sama, but you have some visitors. A guard at the place of the daimyo of Land of Rice Paddies told the ruler as he entered the throne room. Visitors? I'm not expecting anyone. Who are they? The ruler of the country asked. He was tall, thin, with brown hair beginning to gray, and a small beard, wearing a black royal kimono with a pattern for a rice farm sewn onto it. The one adult present claims to be one of the Sannin of Land of Fire. His physical description matches that of the snake summoner, and the fact that he is talking snakes with him adds to that confirmation. The daimyo rubbed his chin and thought, interesting, a Sannin wishes to see me. Wonder what for. He then caught something else. Why did you say the one adult present? He has several children in his care, Daimyo-sama. 7 to be exact. The guard answered. Why would he bring children here? I don't know, but I feel that may be part of whatever he seeks an audience with over. The daimyo thought over it some more. Very well, let them enter. Tell the guards they should keep watch, but not overly hostile until any threat is apparent. The guard nodded and left the chamber. A moment later, Orochimaru entered, followed by Naruto, Hinata, Isaribi, Anko, Kurenai, Kabuto, Yamato, and the 2 snakes. San, I presume? The ruler asked. Orochimaru nodded. My name is Orochimaru, for your convenience. If you don't mind, may I ask for you to remove your summons, as they may be viewed as a threat here. Orochimaru shook his head. That is non-negotiable, Daimyo-sama. These 2 are here to protect my 2 godchildren and their friends, and I'm not getting rid of their security while in new territory. As long as nobody moves to strike these children, you have nothing to fear from these 2 serpents. The daimyo seemed reluctant, but later nodded. With that out of the way, to what do I owe the pleasure of this visit from one of the most esteemed shinobi in the known world? To be direct, I wish to start a hidden village here. The ruler flinched in surprise, never expecting to hear something like that. A hidden village? Here? Don't get me wrong. I've been hoping to get one started myself, so all the shinobi clans here have a place to live and practice their art. But why would you be interested in such a thing? Especially considering the Sannin are connected to Konoha and Land of Fire. I've wiped my hands off that place and wish to have a new home for those in my care. Konoha is not fit for them, and since I'm more familiar with this country than any other besides Land of Fire obviously, I could easily call this one my next home. Also, I don't think I could join a hidden village that already exists without alerting Konoha to my presence, and thus undoing all my efforts to guard these kids. Orochimaru explained. The daimyo looked confused. You make it sound like Konoha is a threat to these kids. I find that hard to believe. Orochimaru gave a brief look over the kids, who looked up at him, staying silent as they had been told to do. He then turned back to the ruler of the country. Daimyo-sama, what would you do if I told you each one of these children, to some degree, some more than others, had their human rights violated? The daimyo looked mortified. Violated? Someone would do such a thing to children. He then took a deep breath and closed his eyes, recomposing himself, before opening them again and clasping his hands together. You have my attention. Now explain. Orochimaru grinned lightly, but then lost it as he began his story. Well, to start off lightly, a man named Danzo that I knew back in Konoha helped fund research to improve shinobi abilities. Apparently, that was a front for involuntarily subjecting orphans, and even kids with families if he could get away with it, to tests and attempts to give them Kekkei Genkais. Most did not survive, but I have 3 survivors here with me. Kabuto and Yamato raised their hands to indicate themselves, but Kurenai did not. He patted her on the shoulder, though. This girl here, so far, was not actually used yet, but next in line for a test. As far as we can tell, that is. It is possible he may have done something to her, and she blocked out the memory. Kurenai looked frightened now. Orochimaru then got behind Isaribi. This girl here was kept captive inside a glass tube in an island lab where a man I once thought of as a respectable colleague did the same thing as Danzo, just more specialized, making me suspect the two were in cahoots. Anyway, he forced a potentially lethal ability onto her, and did the same with all the children here. I wasn't expecting him to do something like that, so I couldn't react quick enough to stop him. Pardon me, Orochimaru-sama. The daimyo interjected. Are you telling me all these children had a Kekkei Genkai forced onto them? The Sannin nodded. How bad is this Kekkei Genkai that's gotten you worked up? According to what I've looked over, it's not entirely without benefit, but also not without cost. Once acquired, the victim is in a lot of pain for several days, with the majority of the pain lasting only 4 minutes. After that, it's more like a pulled muscle that won't let you forget it's there. And it sort of enhances one's berserker tendencies when in a tight spot, meaning they may put themselves in unnecessarily risky situations. The daimyo thought it over. Is that the worst of this? Because, forgive me if I'm wrong, this doesn't sound as tragic as you make it out to be. The older kids frowned at hearing this, but Orochimaru held out his arms. Settle down, guys. He doesn't know the whole story yet. He then turned to look at the daimyo again. Well, onto a larger issue before I drop a bombshell. This girl here, indicating Hinata, was kidnapped from her home at night, and for some reason village security couldn't stop it. He suspected that was his fault for setting 2 fires that night. I rescued her and found signs of physical abuse from before the kidnapping took place. She doesn't like to talk about it, but from what I've heard, her family is full of child beaters. The daimyo silently gasped and looked to Hinata for confirmation or denial. Her frightened, crying face, trying to hide in the adult's legs, said enough for him. And what else? You indicated something worse. Orochimaru sighed. Here's where Konoha gets bad as a whole, daimyo-sama. You see, legally I only have one godchild, this young girl, indicating Anko, but since this boy's godparents, indicating Naruto, were too busy enjoying themselves to take responsibility for him, I volunteered to watch him until they decided to shape up and take responsibility. For 3 years, this young boy has been picked on by no less than 90% of Konoha. I'd say 80%, but that would be giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I can't do that anymore. Sometimes kids get bullied by other kids. That's natural, the daimyo commented. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. I didn't say he was victimized by just kids. I said the whole city. Adults too. If the daimyo had been holding anything just then, he would have dropped it. Adults bullying a 3-year-old? Why? How? For how? They pretty much had an attack-on-sight mindset regarding him. They wouldn't kill him, probably because I got there in time to stop it. And when I was there, they would treat him like he was Cammy's biggest mistake, and sometimes my presence wouldn't deter them. I haven't left him unguarded by myself or one of these snakes in about 2 years, because they'll take any chance to make him wish he was never born. There were times I did. Naruto quietly mumbled, but everyone heard it in the hurt in his voice. Hinata and Anko, the closest ones to him, hugged him to make him feel better. Isaribi wanted to, but didn't see any room for her to get a hold of him. Orochimaru stayed silent for a brief moment after that, but then continued. Anyway, the townspeople, mostly civilians, but some shinobi too, several deemed honorable by the populace, took every chance they could to make Naruto's life hell. They did the same thing to my first godchild too, just because she's associated with him. And the adults in the village told their children to stay away from both of them or hurt them as much as possible, thinking kids could get away with what the parents couldn't. The daimyo scowled. And what possible explanation could they have for this atrocious behavior? I can't say it in front of the kids, as they are not ready to handle that information yet. Orochimaru told him, then turned to the kids. If you all would like to go outside and see the courtyards for a moment, you can now. They thanked him and went outside, with Kogayaku and Sango following. Before Orochimaru could speak up, the daimyo did. On second thought, it doesn't matter. There is no excuse good enough to justify what you've just told me. Daimyo-sama, what I'm about to say is Konoha's deepest secret, one that's illegal to talk about. But since I'm not a Konoha nin anymore, their laws don't apply to me, so I can tell you and the kids when they can handle it. You see, our previous Hokage sealed the rampaging Kyuubi no Kitsune inside the blonde boy, and almost everyone holds him accountable for what the fox did 3 years ago. The daimyo's hands trembled in rage, and then he stood up and called for a messenger. Inform everyone that we will no longer hire Konoha shinobi for any work. If they ask why, tell them I've reason to question their rationality and say no more on the subject. The messenger nodded and left. So you'll help us? Orochimaru asked. Tell me more about your proposal for a new hidden village. The daimyo said with a grin. 7. Preparing. In a flat valley in land of rice paddies, construction began on a secret project. Well, that depends on how one defines the word secret. In one way, it was no secret at all, as anyone could see the construction taking place if they happened to be in the area. It was simply a new town being built to provide homes for a growing population and maybe provide more farmland too. Nothing out of the ordinary except some defensive walls and guarded passageways in and out of the area, but those were deemed needed to make it more secure until completion. But on the other hand, the reason of the construction, along with half of it, were completely unknown to anyone outside the country, and many inside it too. Yes, providing homes was a big part of why this town was being built. But these were homes for shinobi, and no one not involved would suspect a thing. And that was exactly what the planners wanted. Orochimaru and the daimyo of land of rice paddies stood in front of a completed building looking over everything in their layout designs. The kids were back at the palace being watched over by the snakes and some trustworthy caretakers. So the Sannin was free to be away for the moment. Things are looking good so far, aren't they, Orochimaru-sama? The daimyo asked. He nodded, smiling. Yes, indeed they are. I'm glad I keep that little pet project of mine around now. Back when Orochimaru had been an academy student, one of the assignments had been for all the kids to design a hidden village if they were the ones who made it. His did well, but overall none of the class had the right idea regarding what was essential for a hidden village. Some students had been frivolous and designed a metropolis designed more fit for civil lanes, while others missed out on several details mandatory for making the village be considered hidden or operable. After the assignment was over, he kept the design with him and spent years trying to improve upon it, mostly to satisfy his own curiosity and creative urges. Now, he had a chance to actually do something with the idea. He was no architect, but a real one with shinobi experience would be proud of his concept. On the surface, the whole village would look like a completely normal civilian village. Walls would be around for defense against threats, both natural and man-made, but that wasn't suspicious since conflict was common and several civilian cities had that feature now. There would be suburbs, apartment complexes, hospitals, hotels, schools, dojos and gyms, parks, shopping centers, and entertainment centers. A casino and a public bathing area were added in too, as sort of an homage to the other two Sannin when Orochimaru initially worked on the design and saw no real reason to take them out. But under the surface, that was the beauty of all this. Underneath the city, and under the sewage system too, were secret chambers, bunkers, and hallways for shinobi to learn and train in. There was even a hidden academy and several training centers scattered everywhere, each designed to help in a particular area. Some in taijutsu, some in kenjutsu, some in ninjutsu, and some in jinjutsu. This way, the shinobi of this village could train to their heart's content without fear of someone from the outside ever finding them or even knowing what was going on. The dojos could be used too to get them used to training above ground, as long as they didn't use ninjutsu there. There is also an idea that the shinobi here only wear their hitayate on the job, preferably out of town, rather than walk around in public, so visitors wouldn't notice. With this in mind, it would be the one true hidden shinobi village, by virtue of being hidden in plain sight. The daimyo had been satisfied with the conceptual design and provided what he considered the perfect location for the village. A flat stretch of land big enough to hold Konoha, if it had to, surrounded by mountains to the north and northeast. A gorge with a rapid river bordered the complete west, and a forest provided the remaining boundary. The mountains were not completely impassable, but a route being worked on would make it more convenient. A bridge was being constructed over the gorge, and 2 routes were being paved through the forest. Since the village was not trying to look like a hidden shinobi village, they needed these routes to make it more believable. They were being made in a compass fashion to make them easier to monitor, though should something go amiss. Construction might take some time, since we aren't letting too many in on this. The daimyo commented. So far the only help they had were from construction companies and shinobi with masonry skills who intended to settle down here when finished. If we could let another village in on this, then maybe things can go faster and we could have a ready ally. Reasonable, but who? And do I really need to say Konoha is not an option? Orochimaru responded. Of course not. I was thinking more along the lines of Taki, Hoshi, or Kusa. The daimyo told him. Orochimaru arched an eyebrow. Them rather than Suna or Kiri or something? Well, the 5 great shinobi villages might have a lot of power backing them, but the lesser ones are more likely to bond with a fellow small village. Allying ourselves with them will make forming alliances with other villages easier too. And they're eager for business since they're often overlooked by clients in favor of the bigger ones. The Sani nodded. Maybe, but having one of the major villages help might be a good thing, especially if we need the manpower against Konoha. This time the daimyo arched an eyebrow. Do you intend to go to war with your old home? At the moment, no. However, if they happen to discover my group is here, Naruto-kun and Anko-chan in particular, I'm sure they will cause trouble over it. And I'd rather be prepared for the worst. Suna would be the best option, as they're the closest. IWA a close second, but I'd rather not risk their involvement either if I can help it. Because of young Naruto, am I right? The daimyo asked, having been told about Naruto's heritage to explain his situation better. Yes, until I'm certain of their overall attitude towards Minato, I can't verify if they would be a threat or not. Most likely they are, since Minato did not die that long ago, and one could not ask without raising suspicions they would look into. It might be years before anyone can. Orochimaru stated. Reasonable, the daimyo mused. So shall we stick with Suna and maybe 1 or 2 of the smaller villages? Let's see how much we can do on our own first, the Sannin suggested. Besides, the underground network has to be completed first, and it's best if only our forces has a good feel for that area. What we really need are some established clans to settle down here. Maybe some civilians and their kids will be willing to learn to become shinobis, but some existing clans and Kekkei Jinkai will give us some credibility when we make ourselves known. Why not go around other places to find people and families that have nowhere to go? Not fugitives that would sell you out, but desperate people with something to prove and willing to settle down somewhere. You know, like you were when you came to me. Orochimaru thought about it and shrugged. Why not? Orochimaru later made it back to the palace and gathered the kids together. Okay, everyone, I'm going to be going on a trip for a bit to try and find us more allies. You all will be staying here, with Kogayaku and Sango watching over you with Daimyo-sama. Do as they say. Everyone nodded, and he handed Anko something that looked like a paper bomb. Hopefully nothing bad will happen, but just in case something does happen, put some blood on this. That'll summon Manda to protect you guys, but it'll only work once. Do not use it for anything short of an emergency, got it? Anko nodded and pocketed the paper. Good. I'll be back as soon as I can. Stay safe. With that, the snake Sannin left for parts unknown. So what do we do in the meantime? Kabuto asked after the adult who watched over them these past few weeks left. I guess we train. Any better ideas? Anko asked. Are you sure that's a good idea? Kurenai wondered, gingerly touching her curse mark. Ever since they got it, the kids were afraid to train, thinking it would control them if they trained. We've got to learn to deal with it sooner or later. It's not like they're just going to vanish with soap and water. Naichan. Anko replied. And if anything happens, the rest can stop them, right? Naruto asked. Exactly, Otudo. Anko stated. Rather than keep up the discussion, Yamato just went right to doing push-ups, and Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi joined in. Anko joined too, and after a moment so did Kabuto and Kurenai. Nothing bad happening so far regarding their marks, and hopefully it would stay that way. Orochimaru had been traveling for 2 days now, not entirely sure just where he should be going. He couldn't go right to an established ninja village and ask if anyone there wanted to move. Clans weren't allowed to do just up and do that for security reasons. And he couldn't go up to bandits and rogues, making them offers since their very nature was based more on greed than loyalty. The best idea he had was going to civilian towns and asking if there were any families with shinobi potential that wanted to take the chance to use it. So now here he was in a random town in Land of Fire, taking a break and having a drink before going out again. Why are so many ideas easier said than done? He asked himself. I've been trying to figure that out myself. Another guy's voice said behind him. Orochimaru immediately recognized it and slowly turned around to see Jiraiya, along with Tsunade and a brunette he didn't recognize. Oh, Iduba, what brings you here? That's my line team, Jiraiya told him. Orochimaru, we came to help out. That's what teammates do, Tsunade said gently. A little late, don't you think? He paused to take another gulp. Hey Tsunade, you actually took time off from your eternal binge to see me? I don't know if I should be flattered or worried. I heard from Sensei what happened, and I got a hold of Tsunade here. We figured you might want some friendly company, Jiraiya explained. Orochimaru arched an eyebrow. What exactly did Sensei say? In his words, Jiraiya cleared his throat. He said that you had a tragic lose and took it rather unwell and just vanished. He also told me to tell you that he hopes you'll come back when you can get yourself sorted out. Orochimaru glared. That's it? Word for word. Jiraiya nodded, and Orochimaru clenched his fists. That is one of the most apathetic things I've ever heard. We're sorry for you, Orochi. Tsunade butted in. We heard you lost your goddaughter and your work to some maniac, but you shouldn't take it out on Sensei or the village. And I wouldn't if both had done more to help Anko-chan and Naruto instead of just... Wait, did you just say Naruto? Jiraiya asked, caught off guard. The snake Sannin nodded. Yeah, Minato es son. The kid you two were supposed to watch over, but never did. Who did you think was watching over him all this time? The toad and slug Sannins exchanged a worried look before turning back to their teammate. Orochimaru, Sensei told me he was killed just after the sealing. Couldn't handle the strain. Orochimaru wanted to puke, and it had nothing to do with the alcohol in his system. He told you Naruto died? Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, and then I told Tsunade. You mean he didn't? Orochimaru shook his head. Nope, he's still alive. Not that Konoha wants him to be. I faked his and my goddaughter's death so I could get them away from that child-beating shit stain of a village. Tsunade started to cry. My godson is alive? Can I please see him? Orochimaru thought about it. I'll let you two see him under a few conditions. First, you can't breathe a word of what I'm doing to Sir Toby, period. They nodded without a hint of protest, even Tsunade's assistant. Second, you need to help me find some trustable ninjas and clans to make allies with and are able to move about, so I can protect the kids better. For the record, I learned that the current Mizukage is about to issue a Kekkei Genkai purge of Kiri. More like some kind of genocide if you ask me, Jiraiya said quietly. Orochimaru smirked. Then if we get there first and offer them solace, we can get the people and numbers I need. Good, so let's head out tomorrow for Kiri. But I want to see Naruto, Tsunade protested. You waited 3 years. You can wait another week or so. I'm getting these shinobi first, so Naruto won't be such a target anymore. You make it sound like horrible things have happened to him. Tsunade's apprentice commented. The look on the pale Sannin's face disturbed them all. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow. That way none of you will be unable to sleep tonight. So, are you going to help me or not? 8 allies. The three Sannin, along with Shizen, had reached Land of Water, with no intention of staying there for long. They would get this little task over with, hopefully with good results, and go where they really wanted to be, Land of Rice Paddies and with Naruto. Jiraiya and Tsunade had heard what had happened in their absence, and were ashamed of themselves, even though they were not entirely at fault for their absence. Still, that didn't make it any easier on their consciousnesses. When they woke up the morning after a chance reunion with Orochimaru, Jiraiya and Tsunade were all ears about what had happened to Naruto. Shizen was too, even though she never met the boy, just his mother through Tsunade. None of them liked what they heard. Flashback. Okay, Orochimaru, tell us everything you wouldn't last night about Minato's son. Tsunade demanded first thing in the morning. The three Sannin were seated in a hotel room at the moment on one of the beds. Well, where to start? Naruto's alive, but has been hurt repeatedly his whole life. Since you two weren't there to watch over him, I took your place and just couldn't take it anymore and took him away from there. I faked his death to ensure no one could come after him. Why don't you give us the unsummarized version? Jiraiya asked. I will, but first, you two have some things I want you to tell me too. Orochimaru insisted. You first, Jiraiya. Even if Sensei told you Naruto has been dead all these years, why is it in 3 years you didn't stop to visit me in the village? Even a chat? If you had then, you'd see the truth then. What excuse do you have for not doing that? Jiraiya tried to steel himself, but slumped and sighed wearily. I wish I could give you one, but I can't. You know, I've never been one for visiting just for pleasantries. I just figured you were content in what you were doing, and interrupting you just for a quick I didn't seem worth it. One question, though. If Sensei told us Naruto was dead, what has he been telling you about us? Nothing about Tsunade, except he couldn't get a response from her. But he said you were prioritizing your work and personally felt Naruto was better off with me anyway. Orochimaru explained. Why would he lie so much? Shizen asked. Orochimaru shook his head slowly. I have no idea. He did several things to help Naruto out, but why would he set us up like this? I just wish I knew. I would have done something about it. Tsunade said quietly, full of regret. There's little you could do that I couldn't, Tsunade, except heal him better. And with how he got hurt, he would have needed it. The snake Sanni mentioned. Tsunade was afraid to ask how bad the damage was, but luckily she didn't have to. He's been burned, stabbed, cut, hit with rocks, punched, kicked, almost drowned or thrown off buildings. All more than once, and all within the first 3 years of his life. Tsunade teared up and buried her head in her knees. I've ever heard of anything so monstrous in my life, and I'm a veteran shinobi. That's it. I'm officially and completely severing all ties to Konoha from here on out. I'm going to confront Sensei about this and most likely do the same thing. Jiraiya added forcefully. Inspiration struck Orochimaru just then. Actually, Jiraiya, I've got an idea for you. You see, I'm working on a certain project to help my kids, and could probably use Tsunade to check over them regularly. You can too, but maybe you could also play a part for our sensei. Let me guess, you want me to be a double agent? Jiraiya stated. Exactly. The snake Sannin answered. Whatever info you give sensei, you give us too. And this way, we can find out if Konoha's doing anything suspicious. For example, Jiraiya asked for clarification. Well, like whether or not anyone's trying to find Naruto, or maybe they have hostile intentions towards the new hidden village. Anything that could prove more risk for Naruto later on. I agree, it's a good plan, Tsunade claimed. Jiraiya sighed. All right, it won't be easy, but I'll try. But if I don't like what Sensei says when I ask why he lied, then the deal's off. Orochimaru nodded. Well, I think that's enough for now. I'm going to be heading towards Land of Water soon. Want to come along? End flashback. The trip had taken them a while, but they reached their destination. Jiraiya was infuriated the whole time, while Tsunade appeared downright depressed. Orochimaru had a good idea why for both. Jiraiya felt betrayed by Sarutobi and pissed at himself for never taking the time to confront Naruto's status from someone else. Even if he did trust the old man, he probably should have confirmed this info with another. So much more could have been done on Naruto's behalf if Jiraiya had known he was alive. And as for Tsunade, she felt like a failure to Minato and Kushina since she hadn't even tried to do anything after Jiraiya came to her with grim news 3 years ago. She had gone to great lengths to care for Dan's niece Shizune, but hadn't gone to be with Kushina when the due date was near and thus could have helped him as planned. Tsunade felt just plain horrible over that. Finding their way to Kiri wasn't too hard for them, mostly because they had been there before for their own Chunin exams years ago. Not to mention the fog was a dead giveaway. They were heading in the right direction. When they got to the edges of the village, they hid in some trees rather than just enter. Shizune was currently hiding in a small den in the ground they could get back to later. Jiraiya summoned 2 small toads. You two check out the area. Let me know if you spot anything hinting to killing a lot of the residents. The toads departed and entered the misty village. You sure it'll be that obvious? Tsunade asked. You can't have whole clans be slaughtered and keep it a secret, Jiraiya commented. They waited for a while, but not as long as they initially expected when the toads came back. We saw a ton of people tied to posts being kept in some sort of prison yard, as if they were going to be executed. Most of them looked unconscious and none smelled dead, but we couldn't get close enough to confirm that with the guards around there. Jiraiya shared a look with his teammates. Not very discreet. I know this village has taken a turn towards being more vicious lately, but I figured they wouldn't make a spectacle out of something like this. Well, let's go see them ourselves and make them an offer, Orochimaru suggested. There are guards posted just so it won't be that simple, the toad told them. We've got our ways, Orochimaru commented with a grin. When the Sannin snuck towards the wall surrounding the prison yard, Tsunade summoned 2 slugs and had them approach the nearest guards. Once the guards saw the gastropods, they spewed some non-lethal toxins at them, knocking them unconscious for about 2 hours. Tsunade and her slugs repeated this one more time on another pair of guards to make their entry less noticeable. Once they felt confident, the 3 shinobi sneaked inside. There they saw numerous people of various ages and genders tied up like they were going to be crucified. Some of them even had blindfolds on, implying they had taijutsus. There were even a few children and at least 1 pregnant woman tied up here, showing that the current Mizukage was completely apathetic to them all. None of them looked dead, but few of them even looked conscious now. Dirigami. Tsunade gasped. Why are they doing such a thing? For some reason, the Mizukage began spreading anti-Kekkei Genkai propaganda here, claiming it's a crime of nature and a sign of demonic heritage. Considering I once heard that Kekkei Gunkais originated from Jinchurikis, I could understand that, but they've gone so far as to make it a witch hunt here. Personally, I believe that the Mizukage is intimidated by them all. Jiraiya quietly thought out loud. Well, I don't care about that. Let's see if they're willing to hear us out, Orochimaru stated. He then carefully and quietly approached one of the conscious prisoners, followed by his teammates. Who are you? What do you want? The prisoner quietly asked, more out of fear than anything else. This one was a man with a white shirt, a navy blue hakama, and no footwear on. His hair was blue-tinted black and cut really short. I'm here to make all you an offer. Take it, and you'll live like you always have been. Refuse, and you'll stay here. Orochimaru answered. What are you, a devil? Like I really have an option when it comes to that. Just what's in it for you? I'm creating a new hidden village and hoping to find some people to live in it with skills to offer. I'm sure at least some people here would rather live there than die here. The snake Sannin told him. Wait, did you just say you could save us? A woman with long brown hair, who looked like she was playing dead, suddenly spoke up. The Sannin nodded. Please, take me and my daughter out of here. I don't want to die. A few other voices rose and announced their desires to flee, all keeping quiet to avoid unwanted attraction from the guards. Okay, we'll cut you all down from these posts. Those that want to escape with us get behind us, and those that would rather stay here can. Fair enough, Jiraiya asked. There were no objections. With the help of some shadow clones, the Sannin were able to untie everyone in the prison yard. Apparently, none of the captives decided it was better to remain in Kiri and risk delaying execution, so all 214 prisoners unanimously decided to become citizens of the newest shinobi village in the land of rice paddies. Far away enough to ensure their safety from Kiri's influence, and enough people to make the new village have a good start. Before the Sannin and the prisoners could escape the prison yard, some of the guards spotted them. 3 guards with Kiri Kitaitesh stood at the gate brandishing swords. "What the hell is going on here?" one of them shouted. The first prisoner, the Sannin, spoke to rushed over to these guards and activated his Kekiai Genkai. Apparently, he had one that made his skin become like armor, and he had some pin-up rage to release now. Covered entirely in his armor, he punched each one of them and broke their swords as they tried to strike him. His punches were like being hit with a hammer, making all 3 guards collapse. When done, he turned to face everyone else. "We gotta hurry. No time to be sneaky about it. So let's just scram." With that, everyone ran out of there like a frightened herd of wildebeests. Tsunade made sure to grab Shizen before they left her behind. More guards were alerted and tried to stop them, but those with active battle-ready Kekiai, Gunkais, fought back mercilessly. Orochimaru had many snakes the size of giant anacondas defend them too. Tsunade had some slugs spray various venoms at their antagonizers, and Jiraiya had some small toads spit out oil to make pursuit difficult and to burn anyone unlucky enough to get covered in it. Oddly, at least one of the guards actually helped them out by showing them the best way out of the village. He was tall with a bandaged face and gray camouflage pants on, and he wielded a large black sword single-handedly. He was apparently one of the assigned shinobi who disagreed with the Mizukage's orders and didn't want to stay under his authority anymore. He was also probably one of the few who would join them that didn't actually have a Kekiai Genkai, but not the only one. A few normal people joined the escape too, fearing the Mizukage would target them later on for some reason. By the stroke of midnight, the 3 Sannin and over 200 people formerly of Kirikure had reached the shore and got onto several ships already arranged for them to leave in. Before they could be pursued any further, Orochimaru had some sea snakes take care of anyone who might try to follow them to the mainland. As a result, they reached land of rice paddies undisturbed within 4 weeks, Dasage. 9 explaining. Once Jiraiya and Tsunade reached the palace of the Emperor of Land of Rice Paddies, they both had only one thought cross their minds. Where is Naruto? Orochimaru could tell this and felt he should just let them. But since Naruto was bound to be watched over by one of the 2 snakes, they couldn't just go up to him. So he had to let Sango, and maybe Kogayaka too, know about this before he told the daimyo anything. After checking a few major rooms, they stumbled upon a shallow pool in one of the yards of the palace and saw 2 children playing in the shallow end. One was a girl with short black hair that had a bluish tint to it, and the other was a boy that looked exactly like a young Minato with 6 whiskers. No question who that boy could possibly be. Naruto! Tsunade shouted happily before she darted out to hug the boy she thought had been dead for 3 years. However, her path became blocked by an orange and black snake the size of a large boa, and it did not look pleased. "Sango, stand down. These 2 can see him," Orochimaru told the snake. "All right, sir, but I shall keep watch over him still," Sango stated. Orochimaru nodded, showing his 2 teammates they could proceed. "Just remember, guys, he's young and not used to strangers approaching him with good intentions, so you might want to restrain yourselves a bit for now." Tsunade and Jiraiya tried to keep that in mind while they tepidly approached the pool. The kids obviously saw them and stopped playing to watch the new adults, who could now see the girl was a Hyuga. Are you 2 Jizan's friends?" Naruto asked with a polite smile. Tsunade couldn't restrain herself any longer and reached out to hug him. She got into the pool and went right up to the young boy and enveloped him in a soft embrace, surprising both kids. Fortunately, neither screamed or anything like that. Tsunade muttered something unintelligible, like she was trying to say several things at once to him. She loosened her hold on him when she felt him squirm, but she didn't let him go just yet. When she looked at his face, she saw he was worried but not downright panicked. "It's okay, Naruto. I'm Tsunade. I'm like your grandmother." Naruto gasped. "Oh, really?" He turned to Orochimaru for confirmation, which he gave, then back to Tsunade. "Bachan." Tsunade happily cried at hearing him call her that, and she hugged him tighter and whispered something in his ear. Jiraiya leaned in, perched on the edge of the pool, and smiled warmly. Hey there, kid. I'm Jiraiya, and I guess that means I'm like your grandfather then. Eroji-chan, Naruto innocently asked, much to Tsunade's amusement and Jiraiya's chagrin. Even Orochimaru chuckled at that, guessing Tsunade must have told the boy to call him that. And just where have you two been all this time? An irritable girl's voice sighed from the direction of the other side of the room. Everyone looked to see Anko standing by the doorway, inside, looking upset with her arms crossed in front of her. It looked like she had just recently shown up to hear this. Anko-chan, something wrong? Orochimaru asked carefully, having a good idea what was on her mind. Yes, there is Jizan. These two have been gone all this time, playing around like you said, and now they think they can just go up to him and act like it's no big deal? What gives? Fortunately, the two visiting Sannin could tell this girl was just being protective of Naruto rather than downright telling them off, so they didn't overreact to her claim. Jiraiya stood up and looked at her gently. We have helped him out, but the Hokage lied to us and told us he died years ago. Anko's eyebrows arched, but her expression didn't overall change. The old man who helped him out? Why would he do that? That's what I intend to find out, Jiraiya replied. But just so you know, if he didn't, me and Swanda here would have come back to Konoha to care for him. Are you two married? The young purple-haired girl asked curiously. Both Sannin looked unsure how best to answer her, while the remaining one covered his grin with his hand. Actually, we're just friends and prefer things that way. Tsunade managed to make herself say a bit later. And we're going to be here for Naruto from now on. I have to take off one more thing first. Jiraiya added. I'll see you guys soon. I don't want to wait anymore to hear what excuse he has for this. He then shoe-shined out of the palace. Wouldn't want to be sensei now, Orochimaru commented. 2 days later, Sarutobi was going through the paperwork at his desk when Jiraiya invited himself into the office. Jiraiya? This certainly is a surprise. Not as much as the one I got. The toad, Sannin commented. What do you mean? The old Hokage asked. Oh, I happened to bump into my old teammate not too long ago. I was surprised to see him away from the village and thought it was a good idea to look into it. Imagine my reaction when he told me why he left. Sarutobi was perceptive enough to hear what wasn't actually being said here. I'm sure you've got some questions you want answered. No, I want to play golf. Of course I want answers. Jiraiya responded, almost yelling, being sarcastic in the beginning, then completely serious at the end. Let's start with the most obvious one. Why the fuck did you lie to me like that? Sarutobi paused to inhale from his pipe, making Jiraiya suspect he was buying time to phrase his explanation in an innocent way, more likely to cover his own ass. What would you have done if I hadn't? Sarutobi asked him plainly. My duty. And neglect your spy network, which has kept Konoha well-guarded these past few years? Wouldn't that have endangered Naruto and everyone else here in Konoha? Sarutobi asked. If I'd been told the truth, I could have informed Tsunade, who would have come back here and watch over him when I couldn't, so I wouldn't have had to draw my work. And Orochimaru would still have been able to help. So all three Sannin could have watched over him rather than just one. What do you have to say to that? Jiraiya countered. Tsunade would have had to focus her time at the hospital, and, she might have drank a lot in his company, and that wouldn't have been a good idea, Sarutobi stated. Personally, I'm amazed Orochimaru found as much time as he did for the boy, but you and Tsunade would have been more pressed with your jobs. Maybe you're right for me, but Tsunade would have more likely volunteer than taken a real job. And if anything, Naruto would have been a positive influence on her rather than her being a bad one to him. And if a child was raised and taught by multiple Sannin, he would have become a big target by this village's enemies. Naruto was already endangered by being Minato's son, and I needed to keep him out of the spotlight as much as possible. Jiraiya snorted angrily. If that was true, then why did you allow knowledge of him being a Jinchuriki to be known to others? Sarutobi looked curious. Just what did Orochimaru tell you? For that matter, why didn't you bring him here with you? This is between you and me, sensei. And he told me everything, from the ceiling to the council and civilians trying to murder Naruto since literally day one. And here you've been telling me he's been dead all this time. Again, what gives? I told you, I needed to keep him out of our enemy's interest. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. And yet you let him be in a line of danger here. Sounds like you felt someone was going to be hurt no matter what, and better it be Naruto alone than others with him. That's low sensei. He sighed and turned around. I need to be scarce for a bit, sensei. Also, I don't think Tsunade going to ever come back here without wanting to destroy something. Saratobi didn't look like he was going to argue against this. Hope you can understand things better once you think things over some. And I hope you'll still come back at the designated time for your report. Jiraiya said nothing, just left the room. But before he left Konoha, he had one more stop to make, although he would have to be careful with this part. After all, he couldn't exactly give away the source of his info. Jiraiya stopped in front of the Hyuga household and was greeted by the guards. What business do you have here? I'm Jiraiya of the Sannin, and I'd like to speak with the head of the Hyuga clan regarding some info I've acquired. The guards remained silent, but one agreed to his request and let him enter. Wait here. I'll go get them. Jiraiya waited, and a few minutes later, an unbranded Hyuga woman entered carrying a young infant. A girl, judging from the pink blanket wrapped around it. Hello, I am Hitomi Hyuga. Sorry my husband couldn't greet you, but he's busy at the moment. Judging from her shadowy eyes and rough voice, this woman was not well. So busy that someone who looks like they should be in a hospital needs to speak for them. Jiraiya thought. Now Hyuga-san, as you may know, I'm one of the Sannin, and I've got ears listening in many places. One of my sources says that some time ago, about a month, a Hyuga from the main branch was kidnapped by a Kimonin and declared dead. Is this true? Hitomi started crying and sat down. The baby in her arms started fussing, so she cooed to it to calm her down. Why? Yes, that's correct. That was my daughter Hinata. Orochimaru told me. He saved her, but the girl said this family was full of child beaters. She said her mother was nice, but dead. She must have been wrong about that part, but is she on the other? This was the main reason Jiraiya wanted to see the Hyugas while he was in Konoha. Ma'am, that same source told me some rather unpleasant news. They said they saw the body, and before they destroyed it per ninja orders, they saw signs of abuse before the kidnap, implying that someone here hurt her physically, maybe more than once. Hitomi wanted to throw up at hearing this. That can't be. Tell me, who all mourned for the girl when she was announced dead? Jiraiya asked. We all held a small ceremony for my daughter. Hitomi almost yelled, outraged he would ask something like that. How many actually shed tears? Jiraiya asked. I don't remember. Hitomi answered, recalling many had dry eyes. Maybe even Hayashi did too, but she refused to believe that. I'm sorry if this bothers you, but I've got a reliable story that says this clan has child beaters in it. Jiraiya told her. Hitomi glared, then coughed before she could retort. And just what source is this? Jiraiya stood up and led her into a nearby washroom. He was sure no one would bother using the Byakugan to peek into an occupied room with a toilet in it, but he did activate a silencing jutsu. My source is the one watching over the victim herself. Hitomi gasped. Are you saying? He nodded. Yes, your daughter is still alive. She was saved by my teammate who has been watching her since. He won't bring her back since she says everyone here but her mother was mean to her, so I can't bring her here. She looked ready to cry a waterfall's worth of tears. But if you're up to it, I can take you to her. Problem is I can't promise you can just come back here. Or if you even should, considering you don't seem so fit now. I haven't been so good since my second birth. I had to be kept away for a few weeks, and at one point the doctors thought I already died. Hitomi explained. I can see why a 3-year-old girl would conclude her mother was already dead then. The Toad Sannin thought to himself. But I've only recovered so much. The doctors don't think I have much longer anyway. The Hyuga matriarch confessed. Please, sir, let me see my daughter one more time. Take me to her. Never mind my health. All right, tell whoever you must you're going out of town to see a talented medic to treat you. And pack up any way you want with you. Oh, and bring the infant too. You'll understand if I prefer not leaving her with potential child abusers. Jiraiya told her, to which she agreed. A few minutes later, Hayashi and the other Hyuga were informed of her going on medic leave with Jiraiya's assistance. They were against the new heiress going along, but Hitomi argued that she would still be nursing the baby, so this was for the best. Without further argument, and the approval of the Hokage, Jiraiya was on his way back to land of rice paddies with 2 Hyugas, riding Gamabunta to get there quicker. When Jiraiya showed up that night, he was greeted by Tsunade and Orochimaru. Gamabunta dispelled after his riders were on the ground. Suheim, this woman needs medical care now. She's the Hyuga girl's mother. But Hinata-chan said she was dead. Orochimaru said, not quite, but I sure feel like it some days. Hitomi answered wearily. Tsunade did a quick diagnostic jutsu. Looks like someone gave you a slow-acting poison to kill you. When did this start? She didn't wait for an answer before she got started on the anti-venom jutsu best for this. I think after I gave birth to my second daughter, Hanabi. Hitomi answered, feeling a sense of calm from the jutsu. Somebody must have wanted you dead, but not immediately. Why? I haven't the foggiest. But this should clear things up. Just try not to stay active so soon. Tsunade told her. Is my daughter Hinata here? Can I see her, please? Hitomi pleaded. I'll take you to her. Orochimaru told her, leading her inside the palace. A teary reunion between mother and daughter, both thought deceased by the other, followed, and was followed by a teary explanation of the physical harm forced on a said daughter by other relatives. Said mother decided not to return to Konoha and would later be considered dead by natural causes in the Hyuga records, with Hanabi suffering SIDS at same time. In time, the new hidden village was completed and ready to be inhabited. Orochimaru, who had been declared the ruler of the village, stood on an alcove on a central tower to address the new citizens of the village, both shinobi and civilians mixed together. Welcome everyone to this new shinobi village. I know we may not seem like much now, but we will soon become a respected force in the ninja world. Why? Because we'll have the elements of surprise and mystery better than any other. And because I'm sure this population will band together to help the rest rather than look for reasons to ostracize each other. Almost every head in the crowd nodded. So let us strive to be a grand village rather than a barbaric one, which I'm sure some of you will agree some of the major hidden villages have started becoming. Again, some people nodded. Today, a new village has been born. From here on out, this village's name will be Odogeikure, the Hidden Sound Village. The name was based on a set of cannons positioned at each of the gates around the village that fired off huge chakra-powered sound attacks at intruders. A fifth one was on top of the Kage Tower and could be fired in any direction if need be. Everyone cheered and hailed Orochimaru as the Shodame Otokechi. 10 offers. After the first day being in the new village called Odo, the three Sannin gathered together with the kids in their care, along with Hinata's mother. Orochimaru started the topic of discussion. Okay, we now have a place to call home and live safely. So now the issue is who lives with who and where. My daughters are staying with me, Hitomi claimed assertively, putting her arms around Hinata and Hanabi to emphasize her point. Thanks to Tsunade's help, she was as healthy as a horse when by now she would have died for real. I don't think anyone was going to contest that. However, I do recommend that if you're going to live here rather than Konoha, that you change your name so we can avoid any problems, Jiraiya told her. Hitomi nodded. Sounds fair. I think we'll go with the name Hibiki in honor of this new village. Hibiki means sound, echo. Orochimaru smiled. I think that's quite an appropriate choice. But won't people see your connection to the Hyugas just by looking at your eyes? I can wear contact lenses to cover that up, and so can my daughters when they're old enough. And maybe we can modify the Jukin enough so that others won't connect us that way either. Sounds good. Now, as for the other kids, I think we should, Tsunade suggested. Me and Oturo will stay with Jizan then, Anko stated, cutting off the slug Sannin before she could say otherwise. Now, little girl, Jiraiya started. Anko gave him an angry look. No, old man. I know you and her are Naruto-chan's grandparents, but you two were more interested in books and beer to notice him. Now you come here and want to act like it never happened? No way. My brother is staying with those I know will care for him. Orochimaru smiled at how fierce this child could be in the face of two Sannin. Anko-chan, you're going to be quite a force when you're older. He then cleared his throat to catch her attention. Actually, Anko-chan, what my teammates are going to say is we all reside here in this tower. That way all you kids can be together and we all can watch over you. No fair splitting you guys up, is it? Or giving you random people to call parents now. Anko's temper deflated. Yes, Jizan. This will also help us keep an eye on those marks you all have now. Orochimaru added. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Hitomi had been more than appalled to hear about that little incident. Jiraiya tried to seal it up, but couldn't undo it for reasons that escaped him. It was as if it was only part seal, part something else entirely. Tsunade checked as well, and her medic ninjutsu did nothing to improve it. If anything, her jutsus, meant to calm, it only aggravated it instead. What about Hinata? Hitomi asked, since her oldest child had the curse mark too. There's enough room for the three of you as well. The carpenters sensed several people might reside in this tower, so there's enough room here for 24. Orochimaru answered. You really want to stay here? Just like that? Kabuto curiously asked. Hitomi nodded. You heard what Hinata went through. How could I make her go back to that? Or Hanabi, either to maybe be their new target. Better I stay here and let them think I'm dead or something. Even my husband. He wouldn't be able to hide this secret from the Hyuga Council. Yay, Hinata-chan's staying with us. Naruto cutely cheered, making the adults and the mentioned girl grin. Later that night, while everyone was asleep, Jiraiya was doing a quick check on Naruto's seal. Just a precaution to make sure no one had done any tampering with it without Orochimaru's knowledge. It was unlikely, but the Snake Sannin wasn't as good with seals as the Toad Sannin, and he couldn't have watched Naruto 24/7 for 3 years. So Orochimaru let him check it out, but he, Tsunade, and Anko insisted on sticking around and watching, if nothing but to satisfy their own curiosity and protective sides. Jiraiya checked Naruto's sedated body over like a surgeon might. He noticed the curse mark darken and try to spread in the meantime, so he put a suppressor seal on it for the meantime. Hopefully it would last. But when he took a direct look at the seal for the QB, Jiraiya's vision darkened for a moment. When he could see again, he saw himself in front of a giant set of cage doors standing in shallow water. He noticed a piece of paper with the kanji for seal on the cage and knew exactly where he was. Minato, did you plan this? Or am I here by accident? The pervy sage asked himself. The sound of breathing and groaning made him stop, and the sight of a large red eye slowly opening made him freeze. Who are you? A tired but strong voice asked him. Jiraiya was half tempted to give his trademark introduction, but wisely thought the better of it. I'm just checking up on the boy. I never expected to come across you. The QB shut its eye again and slowly reopened it, but not as much this time. If you're here to hurt the kid, you just made a big mistake. The fox growled, almost protectively. I'm here to help him. The last thing I want to do is hurt him. QB looked at him like it was studying him, and it appeared more alert and awake this time. How do you intend to help him? Since I'm in him, I'd be affected, so I have the right to know. I just want to make sure the seal hasn't been tampered with or weakened in any way. Some idiots in Konoha could have easily done that if they did anything to him without truly thinking it through. Jiraiya explained. The QB groaned, or maybe yawned. It was hard to tell here. Nothing like that I've seen. From what I recall, the seal was the only part of him those bastards and bitches left alone. Jiraiya blinked in surprise. From what you recall? I saw everything through his eyes. I can't do anything except heal him though, but only so much or he might get poisoned from my chakra. Otherwise, I'd have gotten rid of that new mark myself. That one's a bit of a nuisance. From what I can tell, it's some sort of false Kekkei Jinkai, giving him a unique ability, but it can't be passed down to his own kids. By the way, go easy on the sedatives. They're only making it worse for him. How? Jiraiya asked. I'm no expert like that vixen you're with, but the man who gave the kit that mark said being close to death would trigger a second stage for that mark. I think being heavily sedated for a time might be just as effective for it. Jiraiya thought this over. I'll take your word for it, since that thing is very confusing to me. I've been trying to understand it since the kid and the others got it. I believe it's some sort of secondary chakra source that first awakens in a dangerous situation. Maybe activating an already present Kekkei Jinkai will trigger it too, but I'm not sure. Does kind of throw a wrench into my possible offer. The QB mentioned. Possible offer? Jiraiya repeated curiously. I might as well tell you anyway, since the kid's too young to understand. You see, the bijou, when sealed inside a human, can do something to help their host out and prolong their life. Usually, the creation of a Kekkei Jinkai, thus the source of them all. The QB explained. So that little tidbit I heard was right. Jiraiya quickly thought. The QB continued explaining. The way it works is based on the host's age and a number of our tales. Take the Ichibi, for example. He can offer a single Kekiai Genkai to his host, but it has to be done before the first birthday, or else all he gets is extra chakra and quick healing. Since a human that young can't understand the situation, the Ichibi usually chooses the Kekiai Genkai for them. It's always sand-wielding. So you can give Naruto a Kekiai Genkai to make him a better ninja when he's older? Jiraiya asked, and Kyuubi nodded. But Naruto's 3, going on 4. Isn't he too old for you to do that? If I was the Ichibi, or anything weaker than the Sanbai, then yes. But I have until he's 9 years old, since I have 9 tails. And what's more, I can give him 9 Kekiai Gunkais total, either already existing or completely original. All he has to do is decide which ones he wants, and I can give them to him. Jiraiya gasped. And 9 Kekiai Genkai? How could anyone possibly handle that? He can't use them all at once. And if he were to reproduce when he's using one of them, it would be passed down to his own kids. He'll basically be a Kekiai Genkai factory and need 9 mates when he's old enough. Jiraiya paled. N. 9-1. Women. I never thought I'd envy a 3-year-old before. Then he thought of something unperverted. Wait, what do you get out of this? 2 things. 1. That he won't die anytime soon. The host's death hurts the Bijou too, and it hurts like hell every time. And 2. When he finally does die, if he accepts the offer, then I don't die with him, but get to return home. Otherwise, our lives become permanently linked. Haven't you ever wondered why everyone says when a Jinchuriki dies, the Bijou does too, but all 9 of us are still alive when there have been Jinchuriki in the past? Jiraiya went over all this newly gathered info quietly. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back outside the seal in the room with the others, laying on his back with everyone but Naruto gathered above him. How long was I out? A few minutes. Did something happen? Tsunade answered. Jiraiya sat up and popped his back. Yeah, I ended up talking to the fox somehow and heard something rather interesting. Like what? Anko asked. Well, Jiraiya started. Crap, how can I explain this to a kid? After thinking of the best way to phrase it, he answered her. Let's just say Naruto here, when older, is going to be very strong and need several girlfriends. Anko smiled, but Tsunade scowled. You better not be planning on making him a pervert. Anko-chan, why don't you leave the room for a bit so the grown-ups can talk about this? Orochimaru suggested. The purple-haired girl got the hint and left the room, but hung outside the door to eavesdrop. I know you're still there, Anko-chan. Thus she sighed in defeat and walked away. Now, what's this about several girlfriends? Tsunade asked hostilely, with the beginning signs of fire in her eyes. I know this is hard for you to believe, Haim, but the QB told me that when Naruto here turns 9, he can create 9 Kekiai Genkai for him to have, and he can pass one down to each of his children. So 9 wives would help him out, unless you'd rather one girl have 9 children. Jiraiya explained. Tsunade blanched, while Orochimaru grinned. He can create his own Kekiai Genkai. Jiraiya nodded. Or he can assume one that already exists or went extinct. He can only use one at a time, though, and each kid of his can only inherit one. I'm not sure what the case would be if the mother has one too, though. Orochimaru's grin widened. This is perfect. I know we already brought in some Kekiai Genkais, but an opportunity like this is like a godsend. Think about it. We can either help out a thinning bloodline or make one that none of our enemies have ever heard of. Hell, we may even be able to improve already existing ones. Calm down, team. None of this can happen until he's 9. Jiraiya pointed out. I know. So we got 6 years to help Naruto come up with 9 abilities. Well, the possibilities. I think we just got a great trump card against Konoha. Orochimaru claimed CH. Onskrim. Morning came, and the 3 Sannin were the first to wake up. This was rather early for Tsunade, but she didn't have a hangover this time. Orochimaru, who was used to getting up early to check on the kids right away, did just that while his teammates still had to rub the sleep out of their eyes. Oddly, before he got to any of their rooms to see if they were up yet, he ran into Hitomi, who looked like she was waiting for him. Good morning, San and Sama. Would it be all right if I had a word with you before the children get up? Sure, and call me Orochimaru, please. The pale Sannin told her as he led her to an empty room that he was planning on making a kitchen for the residents. "So what's on your mind, Hitomi-san?" The pale-eyed woman seemed hesitant to answer, but made no effort not to. "Orochimaru-sama, remember how Tsunade-sama said my problems were because of someone poisoning me and not related to childbirth complications?" He nodded. "I've been thinking it over, and even though it disgusts me, I think I know why someone would do that." Orochimaru could easily sense how troubling this was for her. "Would you like some tea or something? You look like you need something for your nerves." "That would be nice, thank you," she answered quietly. Fortunately, the room had enough already in it to boil water, so Orochimaru was able to actually make the drink. He didn't say a word more until it was done, and he handed her a steaming cup, keeping one for himself in case she didn't feel right drinking alone. After taking a long sip, Hitomi started telling what she knew and suspected. "It all started before Hanabi was born, to be honest. But I should probably start there. You see, when I had problems after she was born, I thought it was normal afterbirth complications, just more exhausting than what I went through with Hinata. But ever since Tsunade-sama told me someone had poisoned me, I've been thinking it over, and I can only come to one conclusion. I've been wondering about that too, but go on." Hitomi sighed. "The way I see it, only someone from the Hyuga main branch would have had the opportunity. Even my own husband could be a suspect, although I don't want to believe that. As for motive, that requires me to tell you something rather unpleasant I discovered a week before Hanabi was born. Something that may have larger ramifications than I already suspect." She could tell the snake Sanin was still paying attention here, so she decided not to beat around the bush anymore. "One day that week, I was supposed to get a checkup to ensure my baby was doing well, and I had to wait for the doctor to show up. I got curious and used my Byakugan to see how far away they were so I'd know how long to wait, but my eyes saw something much more interesting. I saw numerous connected paper bombs inside the walls of the building and even the foundation, and the connections led to outside. So I checked the full scope of my visual limits and saw there was a whole network of paper bombs throughout the entire village." Orochimaru somehow paled. "Paper bombs throughout the village?" Hitomi nodded. "Yeah, I was immediately worried. Someone could destroy the entire place with just a kunai or something if they wanted to. I was going to alert someone, but before I did, I thought of something. The vast majority of those bombs were built inside buildings, meaning they were put there when the village was being built or reconstructed, and that was a long time ago. There's no possible way I was the first Hyuga to actually catch a glimpse of this setup. Even if I didn't make it a point to use my Byakugan regularly off the compound, others would, and someone would have had to spot something." Orochimaru frowned and nodded, meaning a Jinjutsu was involved that stopped working, or they're the ones who made this trap. Hitomi nodded with him, or at least they know about it, and plan to use it to their advantage somehow. "How do you envision them doing something like that?" "Well, I have heard talk from the Hyuga elders about how they feel the Hyuga should run the village." Hitomi started. Orochimaru scoffed. "HN, sounds like a typical Uchiha attitude." "Oh, pardon. It's okay. Anyway, I always thought it was just banter. But now I suspect they may someday try it. And if they fail, they'd trigger the network to take the whole village down with them. I brought this up with Hokage-sama, and he admitted this was a serious issue and would get right on it. I kept silent about it, and saw Umbu poking around the city, so I'm sure it's being handled. I think someone in the main branch must have caught on to what I discovered, because I went into labor earlier than expected, and that would have been the perfect chance to get rid of me." Orochimaru nodded. "Makes sense. If you had died, they could have said it was from childbirth and not murder. And I'm willing they did something that triggered labor, so they could get a second heiress before losing you. One thing I don't get is how they could have known you knew anything if you only spoke." His eyes widened at this new thought, and he dropped his teacup. As it shattered on the floor, he stood up in outrage. "That son of a bitch." "What's wrong, Orochimaru-sama?" Hitomi quickly asked, afraid she had upset him somehow. "Hitomi-san, the way I see it, there's only one way for anyone from the Hyuga to know you found out anything. And that's for the one person you told to have told them." Orochimaru explained with a grim expression. Hitomi gasped. "You mean Hokage-sama?" Orochimaru nodded. "How else? And even worse, that means he's onto the bomb trap as well. If he wasn't, he wouldn't say a word to the Hyuga and simply have Umbu remove them without anyone knowing. If he told anyone, it could only be because he was part of the setup. Maybe the whole thing was his idea, and he's using some of the Hyuga clan to keep an eye on the network. And I'm willing to bet those Umbu you saw were just making sure the whole thing was still operable. Hitomi placed her tea down. Do you really think the Hokage would do such a thing? The Sannin slowly and sadly nodded. There are things about the man I don't want to believe either, but I've seen too much to deny it. And now I'm suspecting there are more secrets of his we could benefit from knowing. If only you could find evidence of them. Hitomi casually offered. Orochimaru smiled in his trademark manner, already coming up with an idea. Later that same day, 3 toads were inside Sarutobi's office while the old Hokage was at a council meeting. One of them went in first and managed to hotwire the one security camera into playing a continuous loop of nothing happening. Since the Hokage Tower was one of the most secure places in Konoha with ninja, traps, and seals everywhere, cameras were little more than a peace of mind last resort that few paid much attention to. Once the Toad was sure he succeeded in tricking the camera, and anyone who may check the footage later, all 3 went to the Hokage's safe. The safe was designed to contain anything that was for the Hokage's eyes only, and anything they left for their successor. It's a good thing the old man told Jiraiya the combination. A red toad mentioned as he turned the dial. Yeah, old man must have never suspected Jiraiya of wanting to take a close personal look at anything without breasts. A yellow toad added. He was partially right, because Sarutobi told Jiraiya the combination to the safe to ensure he could secure whatever was inside and add to it should he himself be someday unable to. The safe opened, and there was no alert, since only the Hokage was likely to open it anyway. The 3 toads grabbed as much as they could, locked the door, and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Back in Odo, the 3 Sannin patiently waited while Hitomi was watching over the children elsewhere in the tower. When the 3 toads returned to them, they were both eager and apprehensive about what they may find. Either way, they wanted to get through it all quickly so they can put everything back and never be caught. Unlikely, yes, but not impossible for the Sannin. Besides, all they were really looking for was anything that might pose a threat to Naruto later. The first thing to catch their eyes was a set of documents in a folder with IWA written on it. Considering the relations Konoha had with the Rock Village, they couldn't help but wonder what was inside. What they found was the last thing they'd ever expect to see. The official story about IWA was that during the last war Minato used his Hiraishin and Rasengan, among other impressive jutsus, to decimate a large number of rock nin to save Konoha, and thus earned Iwa's animosity for generations to come. If IWA ever knew he had a living relative, especially a defenseless one like Naruto, they'd do absolutely anything to kill them come hell or high water. Sarutobi had made sure each one of the Sannin knew this, even before the boy was born. Apparently, that had been another lie to the Sannin. According to the documents in the file, IWA was actually grateful to the Yondaime rather than spiteful. The shinobi he killed were about to try their own complete and total takeover of IWA, and Minato happened to be in the right place at the right time to get rid of them all. The end result was the Namikaze's name being praised in IWA and them wanting to be allies with the Yondaime and his family. If anything, they'd give Naruto their own forbidden scroll before trying to kill him. As Sensei lied to us about IWA, Tsunade managed to make herself ask, why the hell would he do that? I don't know, but I plan on going to visit the Tsuchikage and confirming this detail right away. Jiraiya told them, if it's true, then we'll have a good ally for this village. Orochimaru nodded. Agreed. What was that old fool thinking by misleading us that way? What was he afraid of? Look at this one, Tsunade said as she held up another folder labeled Suna. This one has messages from the current Hokage to the current Kazekage in regards to their Jinchuriki. Suna has a Jinchuriki? Orochimaru asked. Jiraiya nodded. Yep, the Ichibi for what I've gathered. And he's about Naruto's age if I remember correctly. Well, get this. Tsunade started as she held out one of the papers she'd been looking over. Sarutobi-sensei said to the Kazekage, and I quote, so you've got the Ichibi contained? Big deal. I've got the QB under my control, and when he's older he'll do whatever I tell him because he'll see me as one of the few worth listening to here. You'd have to put your son through several kinds of physical and emotional hell before you pose any kind of threat to my village's grandeur." End quote. Orochimaru wanted to puke. So, it's not enough he tried to sabotage Naruto's chances for a good future, but he had to try and do the same for a kid in another village. Tsunade pulled out another page rather than answer. And it says here from the Kazekage that he's calling the old man's bluff and trying to make his Jinchuriki, his own son nonetheless, into a perfect killing machine. If you don't mind, I'd like to go there and see what I can do about it. What do you hope to accomplish? Orochimaru asked. Well, I like to see just what the Kazekage is doing to his son, and if possible, persuade him stop. There's no reason for him to be so malicious just because Sarutobi-sensei egged him on. The medic Nin explained, then swallowed hard. Also, if possible, I'd like to bring Naruto along, since I'm sure he can relate to the poor boy better than anyone else could. Take Naruto with you? Orochimaru asked in disbelief. The sad thing was that he understood her reasoning. If the Suna Jinchuriki was suffering, then Naruto would be the perfect person to lift his spirits and maybe undo any damage. But at the same time, the idea of Naruto going somewhere without him wasn't a good one to him, considering the past 3 years. I think it might be a good idea, Orochimaru. Jiraiya added. The only reason they were really seeking his approval wasn't because he was the chosen ruler of the city, but because they were aware he had more say over Naruto's well-being than they did, irregardless of their godparent status they never used. All right, but his guardian Sengo is going with him. I'm sure Anko-chan will want as well, though. So how do you feel about that? The snake Sannin asked. Personally, I'd rather not. I'm good enough to protect him on my own, and she'd just get in the way. The slug Sannin answered. Orochimaru chuckled. Try telling her that. I dare you. With the help of some clones, the documents were quickly copied, and the Toads were very fortunate to get the forgeries inside the vault before Sarutobi returned to his office. The authentic ones would stay in Odo should they be needed later, and no one in Konoha would be the wiser unless Sarutobi took a good look at his own secret collection. The next day, Jiraiya told everyone in the tower he needed to check out something in a village up north. Tsunade said she had to do the same in a village down south. Everyone wished them luck, but once she mentioned she'd be bringing Naruto with her, Anko and Hinata acted up. Hinata just cried because she regarded the boy as her best friend, and Anko didn't really trust Naruto to be with any adults besides Orochimaru too much. In the end, when Tsunade did leave Odo, she brought along 2 kids and a snake, hoping she wouldn't come back with less. For anyone that's curious, all 9 Kekkai Genkai have already been selected. Only 8 girls have been confirmed now, so there's still 1 position available. At this time, Temari is the most likely candidate. 12 Suna. After a week of traveling, Tsunade had reached Suna, bringing Naruto and Anko with her, along with their 2 guardian snakes, which were currently small enough to hide in their pockets, and were doing just that. Part of it was to get out of the heat of the desert, and the other part was to make their trio a little less threatening. Not that an old woman with 2 kids looked threatening already, but they weren't natives in a hostile land, and there was no reason for them to stand out so much. Standing at the gates into the desert city were 2 armed guards, posturing to be on alert rather than sitting in a booth like Konoha guards. They did have a tarp over them to provide some shade, but that was the only similarity. Halt! Tsunade stopped and stood confidently, but with no hint of hostility. My name is Tsunade Senju, and I'd like to discuss business with the Kazekage regarding Konoha. The guards recognized her name, as did many active shinobi in the elemental nations. We haven't been informed of any visitors. I'm not here on any official business. More of I've got something he'll want to hear sort of visit. Tsunade told them. The 2 guards huddled and whispered, Should we let her in? What would Kazekage-sama do? She may be a Sannin, but we have home field advantage and the numbers advantage if she tries anything. Besides, if she was going to do something, wouldn't she have brought something more helpful than 2 kids? The 2 guards thought it over a bit more silently before returning their attention to their visitor. One of us will escort your party to the Kage Tower. Do not try anything foolish. Tsunade nodded. Lead the way. And please tell me about a casino here. What's a desert without casinos? And some ice cream too? It is too freaking hot. Anko added, wiping sweat off her forehead. I don't think you'll be disappointed. One guard answered, try to sound friendly. Everyone was quickly led to the Kazakage's tower, but only Tsunade went inside. There was a park within sight of the tower with some kids playing and a shaved ice kiosk nearby, so she told them to go play while she had a meeting they would be bored attending. Anko bought some shaved ice for the both of them with some money Tsunade gave them. Then the two stood in the shade of a building watching some kids kick a ball around. Anko quickly noticed one of the kids was sitting on a swing instead. Not using it, just sitting there and watching the others poly with a forlorn look. Wondering what was wrong, she grabbed Naruto's wrist and walked over to check on the boy. A closer look showed this boy was about Naruto's age, maybe a year older at most. He had red messy hair and dark rings around his brown eyes, like a raccoon. His clothes looked like earth-toned rags, and his skin wasn't really tan, but a healthy color for one outside a lot. His face, however, showed a lot of fear and unhappiness once he looked at the approaching new kids. Poor boy, he must be an orphan, Anko thought sadly, but she then showed a friendly grin and sat on the swing next to him. I'm Naruto, and this is my Nachon Anko. Who are you? The redhead blinked in surprise several times before answering. Ha! Gaara Sabaku. Nice to meet you, Gaara. Nachon, give me a push. Naruto said while trying to get his own swing to start moving. Anko got up and pushed Naruto, stopping once he got enough momentum. Want one too, Gaara? Gaara looked at Naruto and Anko before nodding. She gave him a few gentle pushes, and soon he was rocking back and forth like a pendulum. It looked a lot to her like he was almost afraid to enjoy himself, since he wasn't really smiling. The ends of his lips did curl up, but it looked like he was trying to mask any pleasure for some reason. Hey, get away from there. Some boys called out. Anko turned to see all the kids who had been playing were now watching her and Naruto with Gaara. And what surprised her more was that they looked like they had seen a ghost. Something wrong? You're actually playing with him? One of the girls asked, as if the very idea was frighteningly unthinkable. Yeah, so what's got you all so worked up? Anko asked. Naruto carefully watched while Gaara looked like he wanted to vanish. You shouldn't go near him. He's a monster, another girl told them. Anko frowned, remembering all the times she heard people in Konoha say such things about Naruto and her. Better watch what you say, she warned, balling her fists, while her guardian snake Kogayaka popped her head out to see if anything was wrong. I have no patience for people who talk like that. But everyone says he's a killing beast, a boy declared, sounded more concerned than hostile. Anko smirked. People say the same about my Otuto all the time. So why would being near Gaara bother me? Kogayaka ducked back into the pocket, feeling Anko could handle this herself for now at least. A few kids frowned and gave Naruto dirty looks too. Fine, if you want to die, be our guest. With that, they all went back to their game and pretended this talk never happened. Anko sat down on her swing, but didn't move, just looked at the two young boys next to her. Everything okay? You did great, Nachon, Naruto enthusiastically claimed. Why did you stick up for me? Gaara asked. People back in our first home said the same things about Naruto, and I didn't like it. No way I was going to let them trash talk another like that. Gaara looked shocked, but lightly smiled again. Thanks, he said very quietly. For once the sand around him and the voice in his head weren't agitated. Why do they call you a monster too? Naruto asked. Gaara looked down. I don't know. Back home, everyone did that to me too. It gets rough, I know, but at least your family is there to make it all better, right? Gaara slowly shook his head. Nope. My father and siblings barely even talk to me. Yashimi-san does, but only at night when I can't sleep. Anko gasped and got off her swing. You poor boy. She held him to hug and immediately felt his body tensen and some sand start to rise around her feet. Afraid she scared him, she let go. It's okay. I wasn't going to hurt you. What was that? Gaara asked. It's a hug. It's a sign of friendship, Naruto told the redhead. Friendship? Gaara repeated, as if testing the word. Naruto nodded. Yeah, we'll be your friends. We've been called monsters too, so why not? Gaara smiled. What's this weird feeling I have? It's like, I feel safe, even more than with my sand. Naruto got off the swing and noticed the kids left their ball behind. Come on, let's play a little. He kicked it to Anko, who kicked it to Gaara. His foot caught the ball, and he carefully kicked it towards Naruto, who had to run to catch it. In no time at all, a three-man game of soccer was going on, with 3 smiling kids. Tsunade was led into the office of the Yondaime Kazekage and told to take a seat on a mat in the center of the room. Once inside, she noticed the overall look was similar to the Hokage's office last time she saw it, but this one had several seals on the walls. She didn't recognize any, but she couldn't see any that looked potentially dangerous to her. Still, her guard wasn't coming down if this Kage made a move. So, one of the legendary Sannin wishes to discuss something with me? Well, I'm curious if nothing else. The Kazekage started. Kazekage-sama, before I bring up the topic I wish to discuss, I would like to know how you view your relation with Konoha. Tsunade started. Since the Kazekage wore a cloak over his face, much like Kakashi did with his own mask, it was difficult to read any expression he had. Well, we've got a peace treaty between us, but I'm still wary of anything hostile that might ensue if it's a trick to lower our guards. Do you have reason to believe Konoha or any of its leaders have ill intentions towards you? Kazekage paused, trying to think of the best way to answer that. How is that any of your concern? You're not affiliated with my village, and from what I've heard, you personally haven't been inside your own in years. So why would you care about how the two villages interact? Shrewd man. Like any good Kage, he knows not to give away too much info before getting more than he can offer. Question is, how to get him to open up with revealing too much on my own end. Tsunade thought silently. After a moment, she spoke up again. To be frank, Kazekage-sama, I don't. You're right, I'm not connected to Suna, and my bond with Konoha is strained and non-existent. However, I've come across something that leads me to believe you and the Sandaime Hokage are at each other's throats, and the reason is inconsequential. Kazekage looked surprised to hear such a thing. Inconsequential. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, but in a non-threatening way. Kazekage-sama, I know you have a Jinchuriki within this village, and the Hokage has told you how inferior he will be compared to the one Konoha has. How would you feel if I told you that was a bluff? A bluff. As in Konoha doesn't have a Jinchuriki. Kazekage sat there looking at her and occasionally glancing at the seals in the walls. These seals were basically lie detectors and constantly read the heart rate and chakra flow of anyone in the room, sans the Kazekage himself. If they detected any dishonesty, they would release several tranquilizer-coated Senbon and some knockout gases the Kazekage had developed some tolerance to. They weren't designed to kill, since the interrogators wouldn't get the truth from a corpse. Since not a single one of them was reacting, he could only conclude the slug Sannin was being honest. The Kazekage took a moment to let this sink in. So, Konoha does not possess a Jinchuriki? Tsunade nodded, and he sighed. That's a relief. I know several villages have one or two, but so far Konoha has been the only one to actually use it in a threatening way against us. If they can't flaunt one, then I don't have to be as harsh to my own. I don't recommend going easy on him or any of your shinobi, but I don't believe you should be inhumane to him either. After all, Jinchurikis are only the prison, not the prisoner, and there's not a single one that chose that fate. Tsunade stated. Kazekage stood up slowly, clasped his hand behind his back, and turned so his left side faced the window, letting him look outside but still able to keep an eye inside his office if need be. To tell the truth, I already knew that, but because of Konoha's threat, I tried convincing myself that the best thing for us all was to do the opposite. I didn't like seeing my own son be so alone and keep my other 2 children away from him. His uncle, my brother-in-law, helps him from time to time more than me, but I sense he has at least some hostility towards the boy. I was sure all that animosity was good for us all, even if bad for Gaara, and maybe years from now, I would have stopped caring completely if this meeting never happened. So what do you plan to do now? Tsunade asked. Kazekage sighed. I'm not sure. With the main threat gone, maybe I should try to be a father more than a Kage for a bit, and definitely get his siblings to be around him more. Maybe he won't become the perfect weapon, but at least he won't become a bigger threat to us than anything Konoha could use. Tsunade nodded, looking pleased. Also, I've heard one of your teammates is a seal expert, am I right? She nodded again. Would it be too much trouble for him to come by and have a look at Gaara's seal? Sometimes the demon in him gives him trouble, making me question its strength. I can arrange that. Which demon is it, by the way? The Ichibi, weakest of the Bijou. A big reason why the Hokage's threat unnerved me so much and why I was so eager to be as brutal as possible in his training. But why are you telling me all this? I didn't like the idea of you destroying your own son's well-being just because some old man wanted to sound big. And the old man himself is in hot water with me and my teammates, so all the more reason. Tsunade explained. I won't ask for more. Also, am I correct in assuming it would be best if I didn't let a word of this meeting out to Konoha? Kazekage asked. Yes, that would be best. Very well. Later that night, Tsunade and the Toe kids checked into a hotel so they wouldn't have to wander the desert at night. At the Kazekage's house, he surprised all three of his kids by calling them into the living room together. Temari and Kankuro were surprised Gaara was included, since he was always left out of these sorts of things. When they got there, he was sitting comfortably on a cushioned chair, so Temari and Kankuro stood in front like a pair of trained soldiers. Gaara tried to imitate them, but lacked the resolve to be as stable. Kids, I've decided to try something new from now on that may benefit you all. He started. From now on, I'm going to be more involved in your training and your lives outside training too, like I probably should have done from the beginning. All three kids looked more surprised than one might expect of them. What do you mean, Otisama? Temari asked. I'm going to try and be more of a parent from now on, and not just a commander. Kazekage answered. Why? Not that I mind, but why the sudden change of heart? Kankuro asked. Kazekage smiled, and since he wasn't masking his face, everyone could see it. Because now I'm not afraid not to. He then glanced over at Gaara. You okay, son? The redhead nodded. Yes, Otisama. I'm well, better than ever thanks to my new friends. You made friends? Kazekage asked as Temari and Kankuro gave him curious glances. Gaara nodded. Yes. Their names are Naruto and Anko. They told me they'd visit as much as possible since they don't live here. And right once I know how to write and read. Interesting. I think I'd like to see them too. Temari added, thinking they had to be quite brave and or kind one associate with Gaara. Kazekage smiled, feeling quite paternal, something he hadn't felt in years. That's good, son. Very good. CH13 care. A knock at Tsunade's door the next morning woke her up, and she was not happy about it. Grumbling while rubbing her eyes, she opened the door. What do you want at this ungodly hour? Language, please. There are children present. And for the record, 9 in the morning hardly qualifies as such. Some soft voice, Tsunade, assumed belonged to a man, replied. When Tsunade finally looked at her visitors, she first saw a feminine-looking man with pale hair and a gentle expression. With him were 3 kids, a blonde girl which looked to be the oldest, a brown-haired boy, and a red-haired boy which looked to be the youngest. What brings you here? My name is Yashimaru, and with me are Kazekage-sama's children. Apparently one of them made friends with some children in your care and wished to spend time with them before you left our village. And the other 2 were curious about the first kids brave enough to socialize with them. I woke up early because some kids want to play date. Tsunade irritably thought. I'm sorry if this inconveniences you, but Kazekage-sama thinks this is a good thing for them all. Are you in any particular hurry to leave? Yashimaru added. Tsunade shook her head. No, I need some time to compose myself. I'm not a morning person and haven't been an active shinobi in years, so I can't be in a rush just yet. Yashimaru smiled. Well, in the meantime, please watch after these 3 and return them to the Kage Tower when it's time for either you or them to go home. Before the Sannin could interject, he had already left the hallway. Well, since I don't have much of a choice now, come on in and keep quiet. Tsunade gestured while yawning. When the 3 new kids were in, she noticed Anko and Naruto were already awake and playing tic-tac-toe at a table. How long have you 2 been up? About 20 minutes. Anko answered. Igata. Naruto waved happily. So these are the only 2 kids brave enough to be around Gaara? Temari thought as she looked over the purple-haired girl and the blonde boy. Boy's cute, and I bet he'll be handsome when older. Girl looks like the type I can enjoy being around. I am Temari Subaku, and this is the brother you don't know, Kankuro. And just to warn you, he's a bigger pain than Gaara is sometimes. I am not. Yes, you are. Gaara doesn't go through my makeup kit. It's war paint. Glad I don't use the stuff then, so he can't steal it. Anko stated, not believing the cloaked boy's cry. After all, it did look a lot like makeup to her. Not you too. Doesn't anybody believe me? Kankuro whined. Hey Otudo, what do you think? Makeup or war paint? Anko asked Naruto. The young boy took one brief look before answering. Makeup. Everyone but Kankuro laughed. Well, Tsunade and Gaara just grinned instead. So what brings you three here today? Tsunade asked politely. Temari, being the oldest, chose to answer that. Our father thought it would be a good idea, and so did we. Gaara here has never been able to make friends before yesterday, and we wanted to get to know the first people willing to do that. Tsunade looked at the raccoon-eyed boy. So he's this village's Jinchuriki? No wonder him making friends is a big deal to them. But he can get along with Naruto, even without either of them knowing the truth. Okay then, now that you've met, what next? We usually spend our mornings training in a private area. Want to come along? Kankuro asked. Sure, Naruto said. He didn't know any jutsu, but was starting to work on snake-style taijutsu, which Anko had several years' experience at by now. Gaara looked down at his feet until his sister tapped his shoulder. You can come too, Gaara. Just don't go overboard. The boy looked shocked and to a point relieved. During one of the Kazekage's breaks, he looked out his window over the training ground his children were using to practice. Along with them was the slug Sannin and two children he didn't recognize, but assumed were the friends Gaara mentioned. Tsunade was watching over as the 5 kids worked on taijutsu. Actually, Gaara was just making punching motions while standing still rather than real practice. Kazekage-sama, why exactly have you called us here? One of the gathered jounin in the room asked. Many of them, including Yashimaru, but not all of them, since all couldn't fit, had been ordered to appear here for an announcement. I've called you here to give you a very important order. Kazekage started, not facing any of them. Remember how I was toying with the idea of ordering assassinations on Gaara to either strengthen him or eliminate him? Well, I've changed my mind. It was a foolish whim I wish I never had, and I don't want to see anyone actually try to go through with it. You can't be serious, one jounin shouted in disbelief. Kazekage turned slyly to face the group now. And why is that? He's a monster. We need to get rid of him before he can destroy us. The same jounin answered. Wouldn't trying to kill him repetitively make him want to destroy us? Kazekage asked. What if we gave him reason to want to help us instead of hurt us? You actually want to cater to the Ichibi? A different jounin asked. No, I want to cater to my son, the boy who keeps the Ichibi locked up. Yashimaru looked surprised. In all my years, I don't think I've ever once heard Kazekage-sama refer to Gaara as his son. Something's happened recently. But Kazekage-sama wasn't sealing the demon inside a child so it could be killed the whole point? A female jounin asked. If it was, then why would Gaara still be alive today? For that matter, wouldn't I choose some orphan likely to die and not be missed over my own child? No, the whole point was to ensure the Ichibi didn't escape its previous prison and could be used for the good of the village. And all it took was my sister dying. Yashimaru bitterly thought, but didn't show any resentment. Kazekage continued before anyone could interject. We all almost forgot that, or maybe to some of us, completely forgot that. Well, yesterday, I got a reminder, and I say Gaara is to be shown the same respect and training you give my other children. I see anyone doing otherwise without just reason, and you'll be demoted or fired. Am I understood? Some nodded, but some didn't, one of which being Yashimaru. Is there something wrong? Kazekage-sama, this is a lot to take in now, and I'm not sure I can act like all my hostility never happened. A blonde jounin answered carefully. As long as you don't act on that hostility, that doesn't really matter. Is that too much to ask of you? Kazekage replied. The blonde jounin closed his eyes. And no, sir. Any other objections? Kazekage asked. There were none. Good. Return to your assignments and let the others know. They all left, and he sat in his chair. That went well, I'd say. I hope it stays that way. Night came, and Tsunade chose to stay one more night for the kids' sake. But they were leaving tomorrow as soon as possible back to Odo. Anko and Naruto said goodbye to the Sabaka siblings in case they didn't get to see them tomorrow morning before they left, promising to keep in touch. Around midnight that night, with a large full moon high in a starry sky, Tsunade had to get up to use the restroom. Her moving around managed to wake Naruto up too, but not Anko. Something Wong Bachan, the sleepy 3-year-old asked, slurring his words. Nothing, dear. Go back to sleep. She kindly told him before heading off to do her business. When she finished and came back, she noticed Naruto was out of bed and looking out the window wide awake. What are you doing, Naruto-chan? Bachan just saw a shadowy ninja man run by carrying a kid. Naruto answered fearfully, as if he had just seen the boogeyman. I think he had red hair. Red hair? Gara-chan. Tsunade thought, quickly getting worried. I guess Suna's full of people who aren't afraid to kill a child, either if they think about the demon more. I came here to help this village's Jinchuriki, so I gotta check this out. She then picked up her godson. Naruto-chan, can you show me which way they went? Gara was frightened. He had been keeping himself occupied by playing with a teddy bear since he couldn't sleep when his kindly uncle Yashimaru came to him and offered him a drink. Next thing he knew, he couldn't move, but was still awake, and Yashimaru was joined with a new Suna Jounin Gara had never seen before. This one was a man with red eyes and a thin graying beard, but no mustache. They both took him out of his room and carried him to the outer edge of Suna, on top of the roof of a weapons storage building. The fact that Yashimaru, a non-acknowledged threat, was carrying Gara was the one and only reason the sand hadn't slaughtered them already. Luckily, the Ichibi chakra had been able to filter out the paralysis drug by now, so he could speak and move. Yashimaru-san, what are you doing? Sorry, Gara, but you were never meant to live. The boy's primary caretaker told him, sounding woeful but not truly repentant. Why are you apologizing to him? He doesn't deserve it. The other Jounin criticized. Take it easy, Kigo-san. Yashimaru said peacefully as the sand around Gara got agitated. Again, Gara, sorry, but in the best interest of Suna, you have to die. Why? Gara asked as he crawled backwards, crying. Why, Yashimaru-san? What did I do to deserve this? And why are you trying to kill me? Don't you care about me? He briefly recalled a previous discussion he had with his uncle regarding pain, both physical and emotional, and his mother, where his uncle showed familial care for the redhead. The first time he remembered experiencing such a thing. You're an idiot if you think anyone can care about you. No one loves a demon. The Jounin called Kigo claimed as he pulled out a dagger, ready to strike while the boy was too afraid to use his sand. Too bad he wasn't aware the sand could be commanded by Shikake too, for he might have lived a little longer. Instead, the sand impaled him like a dango stick. Gara looked at the sight briefly before looking to his uncle, really hoping the same thing didn't happen to him. Please, Yashimaru-san, not you too. What? The sand skewer dissolved to stay close to him, and Kigo's body slumped on the stone roof they were on. You better have a damn good reason for this. A woman's voice sternly stated from out of nowhere. Yashimaru and Gara then saw Tsunade and Naruto step out of the shadows, not looking happy. Tsunade looked pissed while Naruto looked surprised by the whole thing. And this morning, I thought you were a decent person. Was that all an act? You don't understand the whole situation, Sanin-sama. I understand enough. Tsunade almost screamed, then calmed down. Naruto-chan, go check on Gara-chan. She let him down and stepped between the boys and Yashimaru. I already know that child contains the Ichibi, also called Shikaku here, but he's not the same entity. Even so, he's a constant reminder of the pain Shikaku has brought us. Can you blame us for wanting to rid ourselves of such a thing? Tsunade's scowl deepened. Yes, I can. If you can look me right in the eyes and tell me the first thing you see when you look at that poor child is anything but a poor child, then you are the monster. But he's not as innocent as you'd like him to appear. He's killed before and will keep doing so. The Suna Jounin countered. The slug Sanin didn't look fazed. If you mean just now, I saw it, and know it was self-defense. Your partner made the first move, and I'm willing to testify to the Kazekage about it. That's not what I meant. He killed his own mother, my sister, and if he's willing to do that, who's safe? Yashimaru added, sounding afraid and vengeful at the same time. Tsunade took a step closer. And how exactly does that bother you? What? Are you bothered by Gara as a professional ninja who's thinking about possible bad events? Or are you bothered as a brother who's bitter about losing a family member and taking it out on the one person connected to the event? Is this resentment on a professional or personal level for you? Yashimaru scowled. Not that it's any of your business, but it's both. Then I'm reporting you to the Kazakage. He told me his new orders regarding the treatment of Garachan. Since you're a threat to him, I must report you, Tsunade proclaimed. Until then, she quickly did an induced sleep jutsu meant to calm panicky patients, but it did its job here and put the effeminate man to sleep. She turned around to look at the two boys. You two okay? Naruto nodded, but Gaara didn't. I'll never be loved, will I? Tsunade hugged him. You will be. I promise someday others will tell you how much they care about you. She then shed a single tear. But can he last until then? CH14 apart. Sorry to bother you so late at night, Kakasama. Tsunade told the leader of Suna, as some of the village's Umbu took Yashimaru and his partner into custody. She was inside the Kazakage's office with Naruto, sleeping on her leg, and Gaara wide awake in her lap with her arms around him in a gentle embrace. She wondered if the poor boy would have been able to sleep right then if he had been able to. No need. I'm glad you were able to help him out. If you hadn't, he might have been killed or emotionally scarred for life at hearing my brother-in-law denounce him like that. Kazakage replied, after a sip of coffee, to stay awake for this. But because of this little incident, I'm afraid I have a request of you, San and San. What kind of request? Kazakage sighed. Even though I've declared Gaara is to be treated humanely, it's evident that not everyone will go along with it. I fear that in order for my son to become rational and stable, he may need to spend some time away from here. Reminds me of what Orochimaru told me regarding Naruto. Tsunade quickly thought, and you want me to care for him? With all due respect, Kazakage-sama, my teammates and I already have several children to watch over in our new home. I'm not asking for anything long-term, just 6 months, a year tops. Long enough for him to accept kind human contact, and long enough for this village to let go of their opinions towards him. I hope. And besides, since your teammate needs to look over his seal, wouldn't it be more convenient to bring Gaara to him, so he can monitor the after effects? Tsunade wasn't in the mood to argue. All right then, you have a good point. Also, I'd like you to take my other 2 children along too. Kazakage added. At seeing Tsunade's alarmed expression, he continued. Part of it is for Gaara's sake and their own. They've spent so little time together, even though they're siblings. In a non-hostile environment, they can lose their fear of each other and start their bonds properly. Also, I must admit the notion of having all 3 of my kids receive care and guidance from the legendary Sannin is an added bonus. Well, when you already have 8 kids to watch over, what's 3 more for a short time? Tsunade thought wearily. I'll try, but if my teammates don't agree, I'll have to bring them back. Besides, are you so sure it's wise to let someone you don't even know look after your children? Kazakage sighed. It's sad, but for the brief time you have been here, you and your group has already done more for them than this village would have ever done without you. If I can't ask you to secure their well-being, who can I? Remembering Yashimaru, Tsunade nodded. All right then. Wonder what Jiraiya and Orochimaru will say about this. Meanwhile, in IWA, Jiraiya was on edge about how his own little encounter with a foreign Kage was going to go. While he hoped things would go in his favor, he wasn't about to pretend there was no potential danger here. Not with Iwa's reputation regarding Konoha forces, even if that may turn out to be truly false, which was the whole point of this visit. So far, the fact that Jiraiya hadn't been attacked on sight was a good thing. When he asked for permission to see the Tsuchikage, they told him to wait outside city limits while one of Iwa's Umbu checked to see if the Tsuchikage even wanted a visitor. He had to wait a day outside before he got an answer, but for a hermit like him, that was nothing. The answer he did get certainly surprised him. The next morning, the Tsuchikage came to the gates personally to see him there, accompanied by 2 guards. One was a tall, hefty person that looked like part of the Akimichi clan, and the second was a brunette kunoichi in attire that was easy on Jiraiya's eyes. The Toad Sannin allowed himself one brief, perverted mental moment to get it out of his system before he became purely professional about this opportunity. Tsuchikage-sama, I presume. Jiraiya greeted generally. Man, this guy really needs to retire. Was he always this short, or does he have that old person syndrome that makes them shrink to a fraction of their size? Yes, and what is so important you had to drag me away from my work and comfortable chair? Tsuchikage said, feigning irritation since he wanted to go outside and get some fresh air anyway. But he needed to maintain a tough image. Well, Tsuchikage-sama, as you may or may not know, I'm affiliated with Konoha. Jiraiya started a test for a reaction, which he didn't get. And recently I've come across some information regarding your village that absolutely must be confirmed by yourself. And why the heck should I? Because it involves the Yondaime Hokage. Jiraiya answered, again gauging the reaction. This time he got one, as the Tsuchikage widened his eyes and the two guards looked at the old man carefully, as if expecting orders just then. Tsuchikage then coughed and recomposed himself. What about him? Last I heard, he died a little over 3 years ago. You're not going to tell me that's changed, are you? Jiraiya shook his head. Nope, but what I need to know is your village's opinion on him. And let's just say I have a personal interest in knowing. Like what? The husky guard asked. Well, for one thing, I was his teacher. The toad, Sannin, answered. There's the bait. If they really have enough anger at Minato to attack those closest to him, they should try something to me in a few moments. If they don't, it should mean Naruto's safe from them. Should we tell him? The IWA, Kunoichi, asked the short old man. Tsuchikage shrugged. Why not? It's not going to change anything, is it? And the subject isn't something we really need to hide anyway. He then looked right at Jiraiya, as much as the height difference would allow for eye contact. I like to say you taught him well. We owed him a lot, but never got the chance to repay him for his heroics here. So the Yondaime Hokage really is revered here? Jiraiya asked. Tsuchikage raised an eyebrow. Whatever made you think he wasn't? The Sandaime Hokage. There was a long pause for a bit. Care to explain? You might want to sit down for this. It could take a while. Jiraiya told him, sitting down himself to show this wasn't some trick. Neither one of the IWA made an effort to move, though. Anyway, as you should already be aware, the Yondaime Hokage, in the last great ninja war, slew a great number of your forces. Yes, and? Tsuchikage asked impatiently. The official story going around Konoha, as told by the Sandaime Hokage, is that your entire village would fight to the last civilian like a bunch of crazed, mindless marauders to kill Yondaime-sama if he were still alive. Or his family, if any were alive, irregardless of their age or involvement. All three of the present IWA Shinboi involuntarily jerked back, as if stabbed by something. Care to repeat that? Tsuchikage asked. I think you heard it right the first time. Jiraiya responded formally. The only reason I'm here is because I've recently come across several documents and peace offers from IWA to Konoha showing gratitude and concern for Yondaime-sama. Since I knew only what the Sandaime Hokage told me, I felt I needed to get an answer directly from the source. The Kunoichi gave the Tsuchikage and then the Toad Sannin confused looks. Why would he say something like that? I haven't the foggiest, but I need to know if there's any truth to it, Jiraiya replied. There might be a few people, those connected to the slain, but only a few and not the whole village. Your Hokage really did us a favor. Had he not been here at that time, we might have had a civil war and become similar to the Bloody Mist afterwards. The husky guard answered. Tsuchikage nodded in agreement. Indeed, we owe Minato Namikaze a great deal. The least we can do for him is not encroach on Konoha until it proves it deserves otherwise. Jiraiya sighed sadly. I'm afraid it may already be too late. At their predicted confused looks, he continued his train of thought. Yondaime-sama does have a living relative, and let's just say Konoha has been as bad to him as they claim you would be. Maybe worse. There was a bit of a pause from the IWA shinobi. Who is he? Minato's 3-year-old son. Wait a minute. You said the Sandaime Hokage claims we'd be like monsters to him. A 3-year-old and the son of their hero? And Konoha's been just as bad in reality to the same 3-year-old all this time. The Kunoichi asked, mortified by what she was hearing. What? Jiraiya shrugged. I don't know all the details myself. And what I do know, I can't reveal any more than I've already said. If you want to hear more, contact me through the daimyo of Land of Rice Paddies later. My teammates and I can better inform you then. Until then, if you have any contact with Konoha or the Hokage, try and pretend this discussion never took place. Tsuchikage faintly nodded. I'll keep that in mind. After all, my gut tells me I want to hear all of this little matter. Jiraiya nodded. Best they don't know about Naruto being a Jinchuriki for now. And as for everything else, I only have guesses for. Guesses that would only confuse them without them knowing of the QB's full involvement here. I have a lot to think about, so I'll part here and contact you if I need reassurance. So long, Sanin-san. Sachikage said as he began to turn to go back to his office. Jiraiya nodded. Remember, rice patty daimyo if you need me. He then shoe-shined away. The IWA Nin walked away in silence until they were inside the Kage Tower. Once their Sachikage raised a sound barrier around the three of them. So what do you two think he isn't telling us? Something really important? If he's right about all of Konoha treating Namikaze-sama's child so roughly, there must be a reason. Maybe one or two people would be horrible without just cause, but the whole village? Impossible. A whole village doesn't just come together and say, let's make this kid's life hell just for the fun of it. They must have a motive. Question is what? The husky guard stated. Wait, I just thought of something. The Kunoichi commented. Sanin-sama said Namikaze-sama's child was 3, right? Wasn't Konoha hit by the QB no Kitsune 3 years ago? Such an event was generally too big to be covered up and was heard all around the elemental nations. No enemies invaded Konoha afterwards because word got out little damage had been done, so the opportunity for invasion wasn't increased. Sachikage's eyes widened at the implication. Well, he was renowned as a sealing expert, so what you're suggesting is not impossible. IWA had its own Jinchurikis which had been created under similar circumstances, so the connection was an easy one for them to make once they actually thought about it. Let me get this straight, the husky guard said. You're suggesting that the Yondaime Hokage saved his village from the strongest bijou of legend by sealing it inside his own child, effectively killing himself, and they repay him by abusing his child and making it sound like our village would be even worse if we knew about him. You got any better explanation? Considering what Sanin-sama told us, it makes sense. The Kunoichi replied. Sachikage groaned. We have much to think about, but for now, none of this ever happened, am I clear? His two guards nodded. Good. Later on, that Sachikage went back into his office and wearily rested his forehead on his clasped heads. What a mess. I highly doubt this is some sort of trick since I myself sent an offer of peace to Konoha years ago and got a positive answer back. One of their own try to manipulate a drift between us is illogical. It sounds to me like the current Hokage is up to something, but whatever it is, it sure isn't clear. I need to keep an eye on this matter, and until I'm more aware of the Hokage's involvement, it's best I keep him uninformed like he did me. Meanwhile, things weren't going that well for Orochimaru back in Odo. He should have known something like this would have happened, but was more focused on other pressing matters. At the moment, he was dealing with Odo's first prisoner. The prisoner in question was a man from the Hyuga clan branch family, evidenced by the seal on his forehead. No other identifying features were on his person, though. Hitomi might have recognized him if she saw him, but Orochimaru was keeping her ignorant of this situation for now, at least until he had a better understanding of it. He already had a good idea what was going on, but needed to confirm, and since he hadn't assigned any interrogators yet, he would have to do the job here. Why did you come here? The snake Sannin asked the captive, who was chained to a chair in a small room. It was a good thing Odo already had a place to put their captives, even if they didn't expect any so soon. Piss off, the Hyuga spat. Never thought I'd hear talk like that from Hyuga. But then again, I never expected the clan to be full of child beaters either. He then summoned a giant constrictor snake, which got ready to constrict around the prisoner, but didn't just yet. So tell me, why are you here? You'll never get anything out of me, you scumbag. The Hyuga said before he used one hand to make a hand sign that made his seal glow before he fell down coughing up blood. What was that? The snake asked. Orochimaru checked for a pulse, then saw the caged bird seal light up again, and every orifice on the man's head started bleeding badly. He's definitely dead. Must have used a suicide jutsu to activate his own seal and avoid anything that could happen here. Didn't think Hyugas could do that to themselves. The snake left, and Orochimaru used a fire jutsu to dispose of the remains. I have a feeling that the Hyuga family sent him after Hitomi-san to watch over her. Maybe to confirm her death if they indeed tried poisoning her. It did seem rather odd that when Jiraiya offered to take her to a healer, they just let her go off on her own, even if they were innocent. But this also means he had to have followed Jiraiya the whole way, or had some help tracking him. Something's not right here since the Hyuga track, primarily with their eyes alone, and Gamabunna runs too swift for any human to keep an eye on or keep up with on foot. And what's worse, it's possible this Hyuga got a message out about where we are and who's here. And I have no idea what to do about that just now. He paused for a brief sigh. I know Jiraiya already told them Hitomi-san and her baby didn't make it, but if this is any indication of things to come, we need to get on the defensive soon. Not just for the Hyuga, but maybe Konoha too. 15 trouble. A guy's good thing here? Tsunade, what's the meaning of this? Orochimaru said as his two teammates showed up back in Odo, coincidentally at the same time. But that wasn't what surprised him. No, what surprised him was that Tsunade had left with 2 kids and came back with 5. Long story short, Kazuke-sama wants us to watch over his kids for a few months, maybe a year, but no longer. Tsunade answered, trying to make it sound like it was no big deal or at worst a minor inconvenience. Naturally, it didn't work. Please tell me the unsummarized version, Tsunade. Orochimaru said wearily as he rubbed his head, feeling a small headache preemptively start. Hitomi, who was standing next to Orochimaru at the time, smiled to the children present. Welcome to our village. I hope you enjoy your time here and behave like godchildren should. Tsunade knelt down to look at the kids first. Say Naruto-chan, Anko-chan, why don't you introduce our guests to your other friends and make them feel welcome? Sure. Follow me, guys. Naruto eagerly said before he ran down the hall excitedly. Anko quickly followed him. Wait, Otudo. You don't even know where they are. We got to deal with this for 6 months. Kankuro snidely questioned as he and his siblings followed Anko. Once all the kids were out of sight, Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. Jiraiya, first thing I want to say is you need to look over the young boy with red hair tonight. Check the seal on him a dozen times if you have to. Just make sure it works. Let me guess, he's Suna's Jinchuriki. Tsunade nodded and then faced both her teammates. What we read was true. The Kazekage was being inhumane to his Jinchuriki, his own son, because he had become intimidated by Sensei's boasting. I managed to convince him there was no threat, and he was relieved and decided to treat the poor boy like a human again. But because of long-term past damage, he feared the boy couldn't just handle the new change and wanted us to look over him in an environment he knows isn't dangerous. Again, just temporarily, but this will ensure good connections with Suna. Good. One good thing to come. Jiraiya, anything on your end? Orochimaru replied. That Tsuchikage was a little more difficult in my opinion. Old guy really has a watchful eye on anyone who just shows up for any reason. But I did find out that Minato really is praised there, and they're appalled that his son was a pariah back in Konoha. No guarantee on an allegiance yet, but I expect to hear from them within a week's time wanting to discuss one. I sure hope things work out. We could use the support. Hitomi commented. How much did either of you two tell about Naruto? Orochimaru asked. I said nothing other than he was alive. Jiraiya answered. Likewise, the Kazekage saw him and spoke with him once, but he shouldn't suspect anything unusual. Tsunade answered too. And as a side note, neither Naruto-chan or Gaara realizes their own situation or the other one's yet. Good. Let's stay that way for a bit. Let them both just be kids for a while, then tell them that burden. Jiraiya suggested. And I'll look over the seal first thing tonight. Just wondering how to explain it to him without saying too much. Aside from that, here's something I need to tell all of you, especially you Hitomi-san. Orochimaru started, gaining all of their interests. Not too long ago, we had an intruder. A member from the Hyuga branch family tracked Hitomi-san down with unclear but surely not beneficial motives. I didn't get much out of him, but it shows that Odo may not be as secure as we intended. Jiraiya smacked his hand with his fist. Damn it, it must have been because we came here on Bunta. Big guy leaves pretty big footprints after all, with flattened trees in them, so it probably wasn't that hard. Tsunade nodded. Good point. We'll have to find a way to cover the tracks up and soon. Any idea who it was? Hitomi asked. Orochimaru shook his head. Sorry, no name given or any identification. Hitomi sighed. I had a feeling something like this would have happened. If they really did poison me, then there's no way they'd just let me go off to see the best medic Konoha knows to go get cured. Then why did they? Tsunade asked. Probably because refusing to would incriminate them or make them look dishonorable in the village's eyes. Jiraiya suggested. That's what I think too. The Hyuga have always been a vain clan, wanting the best public image, second only to the Uchiha. So they say yes to avoid looking bad, then watch from the shadows to eliminate any problems without it being obvious they're responsible, thus saving face and maybe gaining sympathy from the village for having suffered such a tragic loss. Tsunade summarized. I'm more concerned about what they'll do when their little errand boy doesn't return. Jiraiya added. Hitomi didn't know what to say just then. My own clan, my family, maybe even my husband, want me dead or completely under their control. All because I might have blown the cover on something that could be very dangerous in the wrong hands. It was my duty to report threats to the village, not hide them. What's going on here? Here's something you forgot, Tsunade-chan. Orochimaru added. Had things gone as they planned, it would have made Jiraiya look like he had placed Hitomi-san in a dangerous situation like an incompetent fool, and you like you're not as good a medic nin as your reputation claims. Jiraiya blinked and widened his eyes at the realization. Do you think that smear on us would have been intentional or just a side effect? Probably the latter. Why would anyone in Konoha want to deliberately defame two of its most celebrated soldiers? I don't know. This mess is too much for even me to understand right away. I can't even begin to understand why anyone there has done any of the things they've done. At least, I don't have a good answer for anything. Orochimaru answered wearily. Sounds like the will of fire is all burned out. Hitomi commented quietly. That it does. Jiraiya agreed. Then he thought of something off topic. Not to be crass or anything, but with so many kids here at one time, is it possible that some people will start to think someone here is a pedophile? Everyone gave the toad Sannin surprised looks, but Tsunade lightly grinned after a moment's thought. Well, if they do, won't they most likely accuse the one with the most perverted reputation? Jiraiya groaned, hit his head, and went off to guzzle down some sake while the others laughed. Meanwhile, Naruto and Anko found Hinata, Kabuto, Kurenai, Yamato, and Isaribi were busy playing in a pool outside. Kurenai was trying to show Hinata how to swim since she didn't know how yet outside the shallow end. The two boys were just floating around lazily while Isaribi swam like she had been born underwater. Iguis. We're back, Naruto shouted as he walked up to them all. Naruto-kun, Anku-chan. Who's that with you? Kurenai greeted while the others just waved. Some friend we got in Suna. They're going to be staying here for a little while. Anko answered. Temari stepped forward and put her hand on her hip. Im tamari supaku. The clown is my brother Kankuro, and the redhead is my brother Gara. I'm not a clown, Kankuro countered. Your face says otherwise. The blonde Suna girl replied snidely. Anko leaned in to whisper to Kankuro. Maybe for the time being you shouldn't decorate your face with anything. But it looks cool. Then why is everyone making fun of you for it? The Suna boy slumped in defeat after that comment. Hey, you guys brought swimsuits, right? Let's swim. Naruto asked excitedly before ducking away to change into his own swimwear. Hey, where's Shizen-chan? Watching over Hanabi-chan for now. She'll be here shortly. Kurenai answered. Good thing Tsunade-sama had some stop at that shop and get some swimsuits since they don't sell those in Suna. Temari stated before going into a dressing room herself. Kankuro, Gara, and Anko soon changed as well and hopped in the pool, starting in the shallow end. Since Anko and Temari had the most experience swimming, Temari having been able to sneak into one of the few oases around Suna from time to time, they soon ended up in the deeper end. Kurenai would have joined them, but was still helping Hinata get the hang of it. Yamato and Kabuto started doing the same with Kankuro and Gara. Naruto was just winging it but enjoying himself, and it looked like Isaribi was sticking close by him. Temari gave Anko a small nudge and whispered, Looks like that girl has a bit of a crush on your brother. Maybe, but the other girl with white eyes has one too, I think. Which one do you think he likes? Anko shrugged. Don't know. Doesn't really matter since Jizan said he's supposed to have 9 wives when he's older. Maybe he'll have both. Temari gasped silently. 9? How is that possible? Anko shrugged again. Dunno, but if Otudo deserves it, then it doesn't matter to me. Temari gave the blonde boy a longer long. Wonder what's so special about him. Enko narrowed her eyes. Don't tell me you want to be one of the nine. Temari shrugged and grinned mischievously. Not now, but maybe I'd like to be considered an option later on. He's a good person, you gotta admit that. Don't need to tell me that. Back in Konoha, Sarutobi was in his office dealing with a rather irate Danzo. But then again, a calm Danzo was probably a more dangerous one. Danzo, haven't I already told you that there are no free Jinchurikis to be claimed? How many times must we go over this? As many times as it will take until you realize my point is valid. The old Warhawk declared. Valid? You've been asking me, practically ordering me, the Hokage, to send out units to other villages and steal their Jinchuriki to replace the one we lost. It's not as simple as you'd like to imagine. Rubbish. Surely there must be a village that doesn't want their demon any more than Konoha did and would be glad to have it off their hands. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes. Even if you were right, what village would that be? No village announces to others that they have a Jinchuriki. The only reason I even heard about the one in Suna is because they asked Minato how to seal the Shikaku away, and the Kazekage was naive enough to send the Hokage information that it had been successful before he realized Minato was no longer in office. Danzo wasn't swayed. That's what we have trackers for. Don't you realize that all villages keep their Jinchurikis guarded from outside threats until they can fight back? Sarutobi countered, ignoring the fact that Jinchuriki were only guarded to a point. Have you so little faith in your own ninja that you feel they can't accomplish this? Looks like you're getting too old for this job. Maybe someone, Danzo tried to say. Danzo, you're a year older than I am. If I'm too old, so are you. The Sandaime Hokage interrupted. Danzo scowled. Nevertheless, I still say I should round up some shinobi and have them. Danzo, like you yourself said a moment ago, the ninja are mine to control. You're not Hokage, I am. And I say it's a waste of resources to go Jinchuriki hunting. Maybe you and the rest of the council should have worked to ensure we didn't lose the one we already had. But no, it was so much more important to you to have everyone victimize him. We needed to ensure he knew his place. Danzo explained like he was justifying swatting a fly. And that place was going to be under my rule when he would have grown to be a shinobi. But thanks to everyone else, he never lived past 3. And you want to say, oops, better luck next time? I'm not even going to consider this until I see good reason to take in a foreign ninja or another Bijou strikes. And if by chance one does show up anytime soon, I will hold you responsible for it and make it known to the whole village. Damn, I guess I have no choice but to send out Root Nin to find a vulnerable young Jinchuriki. I was hoping to have it be approved by Hiruzen so I wouldn't have to waste my own resources, but it can't be helped. No matter how long it takes, I will acquire that sort of weapon. Danzo bitterly thought. Very well then, I'll leave you to your work, he said before leaving. Pompo Sobi. Sarutobi thought. He's still pissy that Naidame-sama chose me over him. I've been trying to shame him for years to get him to accept it, but it seems it's still going to take a while. If Naruto was still alive and able to serve me later, I'm sure he would have been an excellent tool in doing so. Alas, what's done is done, and I have to deal with the future. Gotta figure out who could take the place of Hayashi's late wife, so the main branch can produce a new heir. He shouldn't mind since he married Atomi for political reasons only, so doing it again would be nothing new. Also, I wonder if that one Hyuga was able to finish her off before she told Jiraiya or Tsunade anything they didn't need to know. He hasn't reported back yet. Maybe he's a casualty. Well, as long as he got the job done, that's the important thing. Shishnash-chitaki. A few years, 3 to be exact, had gone by, and Odo remained an unknown village in the world. Many ninja in the village were trained and assigned ranks, but few had taken any missions outside the villages yet to avoid as much attention as possible. None even wore their official Hitaiatesh when on their missions to avoid letting any witnesses know there was a new hidden village. Although no one had actually left the country, yet they were still not ready to announce themselves to the world. So far, only 2 places knew about its existence, its allies Suna and Iwa, who made it official once that Tsuchikage heard the whole story from all the Sannin and saw documented proof of their claim. For the Sannin, Orochimaru and Tsunade mostly stayed in the village helping out the inhabitants. Since they had no official business in Konoha, they could get away with it. Orochimaru was the official leader, so he usually did the Kage business for the village while Tsunade ran the hospital. Jiraiya had to stay out sometimes to keep up his spy network and the illusion he was still helping only Konoha, but he made sure to spend his off time in Odo. From the toads he had spy for him in Konoha occasionally. He learned Sarutobi didn't suspect a thing, and Hitomi had been replaced in the Hyuga clan without much grief. As for the kids they were watching over, they were getting better with their shinobi skills. Being taught by all three Sannin to some degree gave them lots of things to practice and time to bond, and they'd be the best Odo nin ever when it was time for them. In fact, Anko, Shizun, Kabuto, Kurenai, and Yamato were all genin now, among the first genin Odo would produce. They weren't put on teams, just told to train together under the Sannin, and when they did real missions they'd be set up accordingly. Anko and Kabuto specialized in snake style, Shizun and Kurenai in slug style, and Yamato in toad style. The young ones, being Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi, were still too young to be genin for a few more years, but they trained with no smaller amount of enthusiasm. Hanabi didn't as much since she was only 3, but she loved to watch and imitate. Naruto was learning the most from all three Sannin, as expected, and Isaribi was trying to catch up to him. Hinata was learning how to mix new styles of combat into the Jukin to make a different fighting style, completely thanks to her mother. Snake style and toad style were the best ones for them to use, and Naruto used both while Isaribi and Hinata focused mostly on snake, with Hinata combining it with the Jukin to create a new original version. So far things were working well for them all with little interference. But that would all someday change. Jiraiya was out of the village doing some serious work and some serious dim research near Taki when everything happened. He had been there for 2 reasons. 1, he thought the open baths would provide him much-needed inspiration. And 2, Taki was the closest hidden village to Odo geographically and the next one they wanted to ally with. So he decided to check it out. So far he hadn't seen anything yet, and that included women bathing outdoors. He was starting to wonder if he had been following a false trail. It had happened before. Maybe the women only do that within the village. Just my luck, since it would look bad if I tried to sneak in, and how could I explain to Sarutobi what I was doing here? What do you care what that old monkey thinks? Remember, he kept you in the dark. You owe him nothing. Jiraiya's inner pervert and proverbial shoulder devil told him. Well, you did come here to make an offer with the leader. You're not getting anywhere by hanging around the village borders suspiciously. Jiraiya's proverbial shoulder angel commented. Also, maybe your spy inside will help you find the women if you go up and ask him. Yep, even his good side was a bit perverted. With that in mind, Jiraiya approached the waterfall and ran up it with chakra. As a Sannin, this was no real challenge to him, but it still required all his concentration. Once he was at the top, he made for land right away and was greeted by 4 armed Taki guards. My name's Jiraiya. Tell your leader Shibuki I'm here to see him. He'll know who I am. Apparently, one of the guards already knew who he was. Ah, Jiraiya-sama. Is Shibuki-sama expecting you? Not really, but that's because I'm here for more than just to hide it. No one but him knew that the leader of Taki Shibuki was actually Jiraiya's informant for the hidden village. All because the Toad Sannin saved him from a wildcat one day, and the cowardly leader insisted on repaying him in the most helpful and safe way. To everyone else, Jiraiya and Shibuki were just acquaintances who met each month for their own reasons. I'll have to escort you to him for security reasons, the guard told him, who just nodded as he was familiar with the procedure. The 2 walked away, leaving the remaining guards to keep watch. Jiraiya-san, is it that time already? Shibuki said, as he said Jiraiya approach. Not really, Shibuki-san. I've got something to discuss with you that can't be overheard by anyone. The Toad Sage answered. I see. Come with me. The 2 walked into a small, humble hut, and a silence barrier was activated. But before either could get down to business, both saw there was a 3rd person present. Fuchan, did you sneak in again? Jiraiya saw a young girl, close to Naruto's age, maybe a year or 2 older. The most noticeable thing about her was her lime green hair. She wore a plain white outfit that looked dirty and torn in places, and a small red bag tied on her back. Her eyes were red and they looked terrified and sad at the same time, like she had little to be happy about. Once she saw them both, she grabbed a few apples and rolls off the counter and darted out of the hut like a panicked animal. Fuchan, wait. Shibuki shouted, but it was too late. He sighed. I hope this doesn't keep her away. Who was that? Jiraiya asked since he never knew Shibuki had any kids. Her name's Fu, no family name. She's an orphan and sort of the village urchin. Nobody wants to adopt her because of the social stigma that would come from it, but some people, myself included, do leave out food and supplies for her. They usually do in secret, so they don't become social outcasts themselves. Why would that? Jiraiya started to ask, but then answered his own question with wide eyes. She's a Jinchuriki, isn't she? You never cease to amaze me, Jiraiya-san. Shibuki answered. Yeah, she's the container of the Shichibi no Kabutamushi. I never told you before for her security, but there's no helping it now. Ow. Is she treated regularly? The toad Sennin almost sounded afraid to ask. Shibuki sighed again. Not well. No one goes out of their way to kill her, but no one really goes out of their way to make her feel welcome either. Kids and adults ignore her, refuse to talk or interact with her, even help her learn anything. It's like they're trying to ignore her to death, so she has to live like a stray cat, surviving off the few handout from those that are afraid to do more. I do more, but with my responsibilities, I can't give her the attention she needs. Jiraiya didn't know if he wanted to cry or vomit. But before he could ask more on the subject or bring up the matter of Odo, someone began barging on the door to the hut. And since the silencing barrier was one way, they could hear everything. Shibuki-sama, terrible news. Some intruders have arrived and killed the guards at the waterfall. Jiraiya frowned. Someone must have seen me. Damn it. He looked at Shibuki, who was starting to shake in fear. I'll go take care of this. You just make sure everyone here is unharmed, he said before going outside. People were running into their houses, trying to get away from some flames and moving water, implying some jutsus being involved. In the center of the chaos, he saw two black-clad shinobi wearing no hitayatesh trying to stir up trouble. Neither one looked like they were enjoying themselves, though. In fact, their facial expressions, or lack thereof, almost looked painted on. There's got to be more to this than just causing mayhem. Maybe they're making a scene to distract us from someone else looking for something. Jiraiya quickly thought with his years of experience helping him plan. He created a few shadow clones and had them spread out to confirm his theory while he handled the obvious threat. It wasn't that hard once he created two Raisengans to send both targets flying into some rocks hard enough to crack them. The shadow clones came back with a third unconscious intruder. I've got a badass idea on how to get them to talk. When the intruders woke up, they saw they were tied together and hanging over a pot of boiling oil. Jiraiya was standing next to it along with a giant toad he summoned to get the oil he heated up personally. A few inhabitants of Taki formed a crowd to see what was going on. Why don't you tell me what you were up to, or would you rather take a bath? We'll never tell you anything, one of the tied-up men replied. The toad was holding the end of the rope and let them be lowered a little closer to the oil. Close enough that they instinctively curled their toes to avoid being burned. Still say never? Jiraiya asked. Yes. The rope lowered them a little more, so now they had to curl their legs up. How about now? We can't tell you. Our master has forbidden it and gone to great lengths to ensure we never reveal our secrets. One of the trio told him before showing his tongue and the seal placed on it. So it's impossible for them to crack, eh? I think it's too much of a coincidence that they showed up after me, meaning they must have been trailing me. Or maybe it is just a coincidence, and they're after something in Taki. Their attack pattern tells me they were more interested in finding something than drawing me out, and they weren't even prepared to fight me. If they had been trailing me, they would have had some way to counter me if I noticed and fought back. So maybe they really are after something here in Taki. Since you can't speak, I have no more use for you, Jiraiya stated before letting them get drop all the way into the oil and scream in pain. If I was a Biki, I might have handled that better, but I'm not. They weren't taken out until the screams stopped. So now that that's been taken care of, what was it you came here for again, Jiraiya-san? Shibuki asked once they were back inside his house, and the intruder's dead body burns to ashes. What I'm about to say can't be repeated to anyone in Konoha ever, understand? Shibuki looked confused and then shook his head. No, not really. Aren't you from Konoha? Yeah, but I've been asked to make you an offer, and part of the deal is that no matter what your answer is, Konoha can't hear about it, or the deal's off, and you may gain new enemy. Shibuki gulped, not eager at all to gain enemies. Okay, this will be just between us. I am listening. Okay, a new village has been created and is looking to ally itself with Taki. I know the leader of it personally. Since they're close to you, it would be in your interest to consider it. A nearby ally that can respond quickly? I like it, but is it enemies with Konoha? If the two villages were forced to fight one another, what would this new one expect of us, since we have a peaceful standing with Konoha? Shibuki asked, trying to avoid putting his village in a conflicted situation. If it came to that, you could declare yourselves neutral, or you could support whichever side you feel has the better case. Whatever the case, if you accept, you'll gain a nearby partner in combat and trade. Jiraiya's eyes slowly turned to look outside. And also, I'm positive that little green-haired girl can gain some good friends. You can help Fuchan? How? Let's just say this new village is a good place for people like her. And I know this for an undeniable fact. Shibuki arched an eyebrow. This new village has a Jinkyuriki of its own? Jiraiya nodded, and it's allied with two of the major ninja villages. Shibuki closed his eyes and went over the facts in his head. After a minute, he opened his eyes and answered. Very well, Jiraiya-san. You've never steered me wrong before, and I have no reason to doubt you now. Tell the leader of this particular village that Taki will consider them an ally. But there are two things I'd like you to do for me. Ok, shoot. First, what's the name of this village, and how old is its Jinchuriki? Shibuki asked. Odo Geikure, and 6. 6, huh? Well, that's good. For the second thing, I want you to have Fuchan spend some time with them. Hopefully that will be what it takes to get her to open up people and learn to socialize. Like with Gaara, eh? Jiraiya thought. Okay, but for how long? As long as it takes. CH-17 bloodlines. The day had finally come that the three Sannin were waiting for. It was Naruto's 9th birthday, and the day he acquired 9 different Kekkei Genkai from the Kyuubi. They had told him and his friends about this on his 8th birthday, so he could spend a year thinking of some ideas. Of course, the Sannin had some of their own, but since he ultimately was the decider, he needed to observe several to get a good idea of how they worked and how to be creative with them. For the past year, Naruto studied Kekkei Genkais of all sort, in books or by talking with the inhabitants of Odo personally. Most were willing to share some info with him, since they knew he was close to all 3 Sannin, and they owed their lives to the trio that got them out of Kiri. Naruto learned that every one of the known bloodlines had some strengths and weaknesses and limits, so he knew he had to keep all that in mind. There was no perfect bloodline, just handy ones. For this day, a few had gathered to see this interesting acquiring of power. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro came from Suna, all aware of Naruto's Jinchuriki status. Fu came as well, although for all basic purposes the girl practically lived in Odo by now. Very little had changed about her social status in Taki, even when she went back. So Shibuki let her have a semi-permanent home in Odo too, as long as she came back from time to time. By the time she became Genin, she would have to declare one village a full-time home, and the council in Taki was looking to force her to decide in their favor, if only to keep their Jinchuriki in check. Everyone who resided in the Odo Tower came to see this as well. Even a few who didn't reside there wanted to see. 2 of Odo's Chunin guards, Kimimaro and Tayuya, attended while the rest stayed at their posts. These 2 guards were Naruto's favorites and the ones he spent the most time with. Since Odo had yet to participate in any actual Chunin exams, they were only ranked Chunin because Orochimaru saw fit to give them that rank. Another one of his friends, Haku, showed up, along with her mother and stepfather, since he got to know her when he asked about her clan's Kekkei Genkai. He also found out that she and her mother were the last remaining users of it, since her biological father turned them all into the Mizukage for a profit. Or he could have just killed them for fun. Naruto felt bad for her and has been her good friend ever since. Everyone had gathered in one of the large underground rooms with Naruto in the center. They were giving him some space in case the Kyuubi's chakra acted up. You ready for this, Naruto? Jiraiya asked. Yes, Eroji-san. You sure this will work? Naruto asked, since the initial plan was for him to just try and contact the Kyuubi on his own. Even tough, he had yet to do that so far. Not entirely, but it's worth a shot. Great advice, Jiraiya. Tsunade sarcastically mumbled. You're such an inspiration. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes. Here goes nothing. Wish me luck. He heard them all whisper it, then nothing. After a bit, it was too quiet. Something must be wrong. He opened his eyes, but saw a large cage instead of a room he was supposed to be in. Two red eyes appeared from behind the bars of the cage. Ah, so it's finally that time. Good. You the Kyuubi, right? Naruto asked, not that afraid since he had been prepared for this. Indeed, and you must know why you're here. Yep, I've been waiting for this day for about a year. Naruto answered, and I won't end up like Fuchan did. As the Jinchuriki for the Shichibi, Fu should have received 7 Kekii Genkais on her 7th birthday. However, she didn't know about this until that exact date and didn't get in touch with the Shichibi in time to do all that. She did at least have enough time to bargain for 1 Kekii Genkai, and that was enough to ensure the Shichibi wouldn't die with her, but she still felt cheated. At least like with Gaara, who also only had 1, she didn't have to worry about the time limits Naruto would have to. And with only 1 rather than 7, Taki couldn't force her to breed with multiple men later on. It looked like the large fox was grinning. I've been waiting quite a while longer. So let's make a deal, shall we? 9 Kekii Gunkais in exchange for me being able to leave your body safely when you finally do die. Sure, it means I'll have a long wait ahead of me, but it's so much better than dying with him. Sound good to me, and I've already got all 9 chosen. Then tell me about them one at a time, and I can make the changes happen. And the more detailed, the better. Kyuubi told him. Wonder how that mark will factor in, if at all. Okay then, here's the first one. Everyone watching Naruto mediate waited for a while and then tensed up when they saw a faint red glow around his body. Their initial impulse was to snap him out of it, but a sense of calm remained in the air and on Naruto's face, averting their concern. The glow remained for 9 minutes, even, and the only sign of discomfort was a brief look of pain on the young boy's face for about half a minute. Once the glow faded, Naruto opened his eyes. I think that's it. Do you feel any different? Hinata asked with much concern. Not really, except for this weird itch on my shoulder. Naruto answered as he scratched where his curse mark was. Do I look any different? Everyone shook their head negatively. Hey, Eroji-san, can you take a look at this? The fox said the mark might be gone now. Everyone in the room, familiar with the curse mark, perked up at hearing this. For years, the Sannin were trying to get a better understanding of it and a cure for it. So far, no such luck. Although with a few notes they salvaged from the creator Amachi, they did at least learn the source was the blood of a young boy named Jugo. He had no known family, but he had a Kekii Genkai that made him shapeshift into a more feral form when he was aggravated to fight, which he didn't enjoy. Jugo was currently contained in a holding cell to ensure he did no harm, which he preferred. But even with him contained, they were still no closer to finding a way to be rid of the mark. Jiraiya went up to the young boy and checked his shoulder. It's gone, he gasped. But how? Naruto shrugged. Dunno. The fox said something about his own power overpowering it when he made the changes. Can it do the same for us? Kurenai asked. Most likely not. Tsunade gently answered. Remember, Naruto's system is used to the Kyuubi's chakra, so he can use it without being too hurt, but you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. Also, I'm getting the impression that it wasn't an intended effect, so we still wouldn't know what to do even if it was safe. Kurenai sighed in resignation, while Anko ignored the issue. So tell us, Otudo, which ones did you get? No one knew which Kekii Genkai's the blonde was going to select. Some good ones. Even the fox was impressed at most of them. Orochimaru grinned. Why don't you show us instead of tell us? He then created a shadow clone to serve as the boy's test dummy. Okay then, here's number 1. Naruto stated as he got up to his feet. He closed his eyes, then everyone saw veins bulge around them, making 3 girls in the room drop their jaws. When he opened his eyes, everyone saw they were white like the Byakugan, but the small visible pupil was shaped like a 4-point star if one looked close enough. I call this one the Neo-Byakugan. How's it different than our own? Hitomi asked. I can't see as far as you can, but I can see in sharper detail, and I can see more of a person's insides than just their chakra network. Tsunade looked impressed. Interesting, perfect eyes for a surgeon or someone looking to use pressure points. Any descendants who inherit those eyes would make great tracker and medic shinobi. Number 2. Naruto said before closing his eyes again. The veins receded, and when he reopened, his eyes were bright orange and had 2 tomos in them, spinning in a counterclockwise direction. Neo Sharingan. Orochimaru's grin widened. Our own version of the Sharingan? Not bad, but how is this one different? Well, instead of hypnotizing other people or casting genjutsus, I can break hypnotism and other genjutsus with this. And I don't have to kill someone important to upgrade them. Instead, I have to save a precious life, not end one. Kyuubi seemed really insistent on things like this, saying he had personal issues with the normal Sharingan. But other than that, it should be the same. One thing he didn't know was that with the Kyuubi's chakra in him, he wouldn't have to worry about going blind later. So Odo will be able to have an Uchiha-like family, but with more incentives to help others? Nice, Jiraiya thought with a light grin. Naruto returned his eyes to normal. Number 3. No one noticed any physical changes, but he did 3 quick hand signs, and Orochimaru's clone got frozen solid. Hayaton. But I couldn't think of anything different, so I kept it the same as Haku-chan's. I figure we could use more ice wielders. Thank you for the consideration, Naruto-kun. Haku's mother told him. Orochimaru dispelled his clone, and the ice around it shattered on the ground before he made another one. Go on, Naruto. Okay, here's number 4. He made a few more hand signs, and Orochimaru's clone became entangled in tree roots. I went with the Mokuton, but made it so girls can use it too. Now Bachan doesn't have to worry about it dying out. Tsunade smiled warmly at the boy. Even though Yamato had already proven he could use the Mokuton, they always feared he couldn't pass it down to his descendants since it wasn't naturally his. Orochimaru got rid of this clone, and Jiraiya got rid of the roots with a small fire jutsu. A new clone was made, and Naruto was ready to show off his 5th Kekkei Genkai. He made some hand signs, and the next thing anyone saw was Orochimaru's clone being skewered by several large needles sticking out of the ground. Tetsutin, because few people have ever encountered the metal sub-element, and it's a great way to make weapons for myself and my allies. A new clone was made, and the metal spikes were taken away to be given to a smith shop for forging. Naruto got ready to show off his 6th gift. That's the last of the elemental stuff. Number 6 starts off a list of a few new things. He did a few hand signs, and then Orochimaru's clone started levitating in the air. Everyone looked in awe, and then it fell to the ground and looked like it was being crushed by a rock. When it dispelled, Orochimaru's memories showed a sense of immense weightlessness and then too much weight. Naruto, what was that? Gravity control. Basically, I can make things or people weigh less or more, and if I do it the right way, I can even make myself or others fly. But I'm in complete control, handy for moving things around, and helpful in battle if the enemy is unbalanced or too heavy to move. Naruto explained. Wow, how practical. Good one. Tamari answered, especially loving the flying part since she was trying to work on using wind that way. Can someone fill in for me here? Orochimaru asked. Don't want to use too much chakra. He may be a Sannin, but even he didn't have the chakra amounts to repetitively use the clone jutsu. Sure, Jiraiya said before making his own clone. Do your worst, kid. Okay, number 7 is like this. The color on his body seemed to pale, not as much as the snake Sannin, and his hair went white like it had been bleached. For this one, I need your clone to hit me. What? Everyone asked, not expecting that. Just try to hit me. You'll understand then, and make it a good one. Okay then, Jiraiya's clone said before balling up a fist and aiming it for the 9-year-old, even though he wasn't trying to hurt him. He aimed for the shoulder, and the impact should have been no more harmful than a spanking. But instead of making a connection, the clone's fist actually went through the boy's shoulder, like he wasn't really there. The surprise and sudden off-balance made the duplicate Toad Sage fall face first on the ground, again passing through Naruto's body. Everyone looked at Naruto like they had just seen a ghost, making him smile. Ghost body. Makes everything go through me and lets me walk through walls. He then suddenly vanished into thin air. And I can become invisible too. Great for close-up spying and wearing the opponent out, or scaring them. Wait, Naruto, get visible again and try and hit Jiraiya. Tsunade told him. He did just that, but his fist went right through the clone's body too. Guess the one drawback is you can't fight back. Not unless I become solid again, Naruto said before he became tangible and blonde again. Okay, for the 8-1, I need Hinata-chan and Haku-chan to come here instead. Why? Both girls' mothers asked, not that they believed he'd really hurt them. Let's just say none of the Sannin are exactly good testers for this one. Hinata-chan and Haku-chan are perfect, the boy answered. Without waiting for their mother's approval, both aforementioned girls walked up to him with kind grins. Both trusted the boy with their lives and showed no amount of fear. What do you want us to do, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Naruto suddenly gained red rings around his eyes much like Gaara had. Try and use your own Kekki Genkai to attack me. The two girls shared a look before giving him an if you insist look. Hinata used the hand signs needed to activate the Byakugan when a user was still young and inexperienced, while Haku tried a short set to create some Ice-Symbon. The two finished at the same time, but nothing happened. What the heck? Haku asked herself before trying again, only to get the same results. What did you just do? Number 8, Unbloodline. Naruto answered. Anyone within 10 meters of me who has a Kekki Genkai becomes unable to use it. The red around my eyes is there to alert my allies if they have one, so they can get some distance. Not bad, considering how most ninja who have a Kekki Genkai become dependent on it for their fighting style. Good way to handicap some of your opponents. Jiraiya thought out loud. And even if his enemy doesn't have a Kekki Genkai, he has several others to use. For my last one, I'd like Bachan personally to step up and test this out. Naruto said as the red around his eyes faded. Trust me on this one, Bachan. I think you more than anyone else will appreciate this one. When he finished, he gained 2 thin black streaks down his face under his eyes, much like Jiraiya. Hinata and Haku stepped out of the way, while Tsunade stepped towards him, wondering what would happen to her that he didn't want demonstrated on a clone. She kept a cautious eye on him as he stepped forward and quickly poked her hand. What the hell was that? She started to ask before she felt a light tickle spread over her body, and she started feeling more rejuvenated for some reason. But she got worried once she saw she was actually getting shorter. What did you just do to me? Her voice sounded different now. And when she looked around the room, she saw everyone had wide eyes, but only her teammates had dropped jaws. Anyone got a mirror? Naruto asked. No one did, but Haku's mother was able to make one out of ice and showed Tsunade her reflection. Now her eyes went wide and her jaw dropped. She looked exactly like she did when she was a genin, down to the last detail, even bust size, with her clothes practically hanging off her since they didn't change. What did you just do? The 9th Kekki Genkai, age control. All I have to do is touch someone, and I can make them as old as I want or as young as I want. And it doesn't wear off. You'll stay like that until I make you get older, or you simply grow older naturally. Perfect for disabling opponents if they're too young or old to fight back the way they're used to, or help out our own guys by making them the right age to fight. Naruto explained. I won't have to wear a hinge all the time anymore. That's great. Tsunade thought to herself. I won't have to die of old age someday. Terrific. Orochimaru thought to himself. Maybe if he makes me younger, I'll be more appealing to the ladies. Jiraiya thought to himself. Hey Naruto, can you make me older again? How about 29? Tsunade asked. Sure, Naruto said before touching her hand and making her become a 29-year-old woman again. Jizan? Erojikan? You guys want to become younger again? Heck yeah. Both answered together for different reasons. By the end of the day, all 3 Sannin were back in their prime, and Odo had its secret weapon, waiting to become an official shinobi. 18 Council. Congratulations, you are now all officially genin of Odo Geikure. And with the recent changes made by Odo Kage-sama, you are possibly the first generation of Odo shinobi to be able to make a name for yourselves and our village. The Chunin instructor at the academy told the small classroom filled with a few Hittite-wearing teens. The symbol on each plate was a musical note. Odo had been around for about 10 years now, 9.5 to be more accurate, and while they had been training ninja of all ranks, they still operated in absolute secrecy within Land of Rice only. About 4 months ago, Orochimaru overturned that policy and told everyone that Odo Ninja could tell what their home was and where their Hitayatesh on missions if they wanted to, but they still couldn't tell anyone where exactly the village was located. And since then, they had been able to take missions within Land of Wind and Land of Earth too. But soon they would be known everywhere. Orochimaru probably made the point across best, as it's time for the sound to be heard. The instructors started listing off the teams. Only 2 of them were of any particular interest to one student, a 13-year-old Naruto. Team 1 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata Hibiki, and Isaribi Meikai. Your sensei will be Anko Mitarashi. Team 2 will consist of Zaku Abumi, Dosu Kinyuta, and Kin Tsuchi. Your sensei will be Kabuto Yakushi. The rest of the list was just noise to him, however short it was. Hinata, who was sitting right next to him, smiled and hugged him from the side. "Can you believe it, Naruto-kun? We're on the same team," she said in a whisper, barely containing her joy. "Terrific. Who do you think was the one to decide on that? Your mom or Ji-san?" He whispered back. "Does it matter?" "No, guess not." Elsewhere in the room, a purple-haired girl and a brown-haired girl looked at the young couple with envy. Great. She gets to be with him even more? Now I'll never have a chance to get closer to him. "You know what we got to do today, right?" Tsunade asked Orochimaru with Jiraiya in the room too. "Yeah, I didn't forget. Let's save it for after he gets done with the second test for Jinin." "Won't that be saved for tomorrow, though?" Jiraiya asked. Orochimaru smirked. "Usually, but Anko-chan's the one testing him. And you know she won't wait. Or go easy on him either." "At least not too easily," Tsunade corrected. 2 hours later, Tsunade saw a battered and bruised Naruto walking down the hall to his room. He looked like he had just been in a fight with a small but pissed-off bear. "Yep, that's Anko's style all right," she thought with a small grin. "Hey Naruto, feeling okay?" "I'm fine. I've been through worse," he said, feigning his well-being. "Sad thing is I can actually believe that," Tsunade grimly thought. "Just so you know, me and the others want you to come down to the council meeting room in an hour. Bring Hinata with you, so we can discuss this with her too, but we'll talk to you two one at a time with you first." "No problem. I'm gonna go lay down now," the young boy replied before going into his room and crashing on his bed. "Poor boy's got a tough road ahead of him, but I'm sure he'll do just fine," Tsunade commented to herself before walking away. "Any idea what this is all about?" Hinata asked as she and Naruto approached the door to the council room. Both had recovered from their little test at Anko's hands, but only Naruto was at 100% now. "Not at all, but I doubt it's bad news," Naruto answered. "Hey, maybe they're offering some sort of betrothal contract between us." Hinata blushed. "I was thinking the same thing. Oka-san keeps saying she might do something like that when we're older." Naruto and Hinata were probably the best-known young couple in all of Odo. While Naruto was seen with lots of female friends, Hinata was apparently the only one he had ever been romantic with or even kissed. She was his only official girlfriend, and while all the other girls could accept that, many of them were jealous of Hinata. Shizen walked out of the room and smiled when she saw the two of them. "Good, right on time. Ready, Naruto-kun?" "Yeah." He then gave Hinata a brief kiss on her cheek before walking away with Shizen. "Be right back." The council room was filled with members of both sides. Like Konoha, there were shinobi members and an equal number of civilian members. But unlike Konoha, the number was smaller, with 5 members for both sides. And their authority was kept in check to ensure they didn't act like they were the ones in charge. For example, the civilian members couldn't call meetings if the subject of it was ninja-based. And the ninja members weren't allowed to make laws specifically for their own clans unless it was a matter of village security. There were 2 reasons the Council of Odo was smaller than the one in Konoha. 1, having a smaller council meant making decisions would be much easier. And 2, there were fewer ninja clans in Odo. Sure, several came from Kiri, but some people who weren't in great shape didn't survive the long trip due to trouble along the way. Also, when Odo made alliances with Suna, Iwa, and Taki, they gave each village a clan or 2 in exchange for better trade and a promise of being hired for missions when they were ready. So now Odo was down to 6 clans total. The 6 clans were the following: the Kagaya, a bone-wielding clan with brutal fighting styles, the Fuma, a clan native to Land of Rice with various techniques, the Momochi, an ice-wielding clan from Kiri, formerly known under a different name, the Enigmo, a clan of people with 6 arms and spider-like abilities, the Sakuya, a twin-favoring clan with a body-merging Kekkei Genkai, and the Hibiki, which was really the 3 renamed Hyugas. Technically, the Momochi and Hibiki didn't really count as clans since their numbers were so small, but the Momochi, the more established of the 2, were allowed a seat on the council to prevent ties and votes. The Hibiki would get a seat when their numbers increased. At the head of the room were the 3 Sannin. Orochimaru was the acting Kage and overall tiebreaker. Tsunade was the representative of the civilian side, since she worked at Odo's hospitals, and Jiraiya was the representative of the ninja side, when he was actually in town. In his absence, Kabuto was the representative. "Hello, everyone. What can I do for you?" Naruto politely greeted. Usually he could get away with being unorthodox, but Tsunade made sure he knew when and how to show proper respect, and this was one of those times. Also, the relatives of 3 of his friends were on this council, and he didn't want to look dishonorable in front of them. "Just sit down and hear what we have to tell you, Naruto-kun," Orochimaru told him. When the boy was seated, he continued. "For what I recently heard from Anko-chan, you're now officially a genin of Odo. And that means we need to tell you something rather important regarding your future in the village." "I can still become Odo-kage someday, right?" Naruto nervously asked. His dream was to become Odo-kage someday, preferably the Nidaime, which Tsunade was currently the candidate for if something happened to Orochimaru. "Oh, this won't interfere with your goal. Not too much at least, but it may make things a little more difficult for you," Orochimaru answered. "Naruto-kun, as you are aware, you currently hold 9 Kekkei Genkais in your blood, and each of your descendants will only be able to inherit one. With that in mind, we have something we need you to do." "Yeah? What is it?" Naruto asked. "You must have children with 9 different women, allowing each of them to pass on one of your Kekkei Genkais each. Preferably at least 1 son each. Not exactly the CRA, more of a clan creation act." Naruto looked blindsided. "No, I can't do that." "Why not?" Jiraiya asked. "It wouldn't be fair to Hina-chan. I know she'd have no problem having a family with me later on, but to make her share me with 8 other girls would be wrong for her. I can't do that to her," Naruto answered. Jiraiya groaned mentally. "Great. The one person in the country who's being told to have multiple women, and he's a one-woman man. What did I go wrong?"